Chapter 97. Master probably wants to use the power of the Tower of Babel to reverse the defeat of the Tianwu dynasty. Lu Yao frowned and said coldly. The Tower of Babel had been restored to the Emperor realm after devouring the blood of the armies of the two dynasties. Above the King realm was the Emperor realm. After the Emperor realm was the Emperor realm. Even though Emperor Fan could use his supreme martial way to seal the martial way realms of all living beings in Fan state, the weapon itself was the Emperor realm. Even if it couldn't display its original power, it could still crush any martial king. Similarly, the original realm of an outsider was beyond the martial king realm. Naturally, their physical body was stronger than any martial king in Fan state. This was why the native warriors were inferior to the outsider warriors. However, if an outsider wielded an emperor weapon and fought with an outsider expert, the former would have a higher chance of winning. That's right. If Granny Nine Dragons successfully controls the Tong Tian Tower, then even if Uncle Fu and I join forces, we can only be evenly matched with her. However, if we want to protect others, it will be difficult. Lu Baiyu said calmly. The two of them could only be evenly matched with Grandma Nine Dragons who wielded the Tower of Babel. Moreover, they couldn't protect others in battle. Wang Kai frowned when he heard this and suddenly had a bad feeling in his heart. He narrowed his eyes and sneered. Does she really want to kill me here? I don't think so. If you die, it will implicate Emperor Fu's anger. Although the Lu family of Wu State doesn't fear Emperor Fu, they don't want to provoke the anger of an emperor. Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and smiled playfully. So, she wants to use the Tower of Babel to keep you in check and destroy all the experts of the Tianwu dynasty? That's right. If she has the Tower of Babel, I won't be able to keep her in check. At that time, the experts of the Tianwu dynasty and the army will all be destroyed by her in an instant. Lu Baiyu nodded lightly. The Tower of Babel was so awesome. Wang Kai suddenly had a strange feeling. He looked at Lu Baiyu with disdain and snorted. Since you are so powerful outside of Fan state, why didn't you bring a few powerful weapons like the Tower of Babel with you when you came here? Emperor Fan forbids it. The reason why the Sky-Split Tower was able to enter the Fan Prefecture was because it was not even a Grandmaster weapon. Furthermore, the Heaven-Reaching Tower was originally an Emperor artifact. To have the guts to destroy an Emperor artifact in perfect condition and bring it back to Fan Province, it's truly a waste. Furthermore, whether or not it can be repaired in Fan Province is still a question. Lu Baiyu shook her head in amusement. Wang Kai's expression froze when he heard this. He smacked his lips and thought that this was indeed the case. Such a powerful treasure, who would be willing to destroy it and bring it to a barren place like Fan Province? In the eyes of the outside world, no one was willing to come to the Fan Province. How could they enter at the cost of destroying an emperor weapon? Big stupid cat, are you still alive? Wang Kai frowned and secretly urged his mind to communicate with it through the bloodline contract. Wang Kai brat, you've really screwed me over. You actually let that old witch in. The cat's flustered and exasperated voice rang in Wang Kai's mind. Wang Kai's expression froze. He did not expect the big stupid cat to be unable to defeat Grandma Nine Dragons. He hurriedly asked, shouldn't the Sky-Split Tower only be accessible to the younger generation? Don't tell Ben Shao that Grandma Nine Dragons is still a young lady in her late 20s. The Sky-Split Tower has just been restored to the ranks of Emperor weapons. If it is not held by an Emperor Realm expert, it naturally cannot withstand the invasion of an Emperor Realm expert. Even though that old witch's Emperor Realm martial path has been suppressed to the Martial King Realm, her physical body, soul, and bloodline are all at the Emperor Realm. To be able to enter the Sky-Split Tower would be a piece of cake. The cat shouted angrily. What about the spiritual pill? You intentionally let him into the Sky-Split Tower. Have you killed him? Wang Kai frowned and asked. However, no matter how hard Wang Kai tried to communicate, the cat did not reply. If it were not for the fact that he could feel that the big stupid cat was still alive through the power of the bloodline contract, he would have thought that he had been subdued by Grandma Nine Dragons. Humph. It's fine if you don't say it. Ben Shao thinks that you can't bear to kill Spiritual Pill, right? No matter what, he was your favorite disciple in the past. However, it's a pity that Ling Shu is still waiting in the dark for an opportunity to deal the fatal blow to Spiritual Pill. Wang Kai sneered coldly. Bastard. I just don't want to kill him for the time being. You let the outsider outside enter the Skysplit Tower first and help me defeat the old witch. If the old witch really takes control of the Skysplit Tower, other than Emperor Fan, no one in the Fan Prefecture will be able to defeat her. The cat shouted anxiously. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and passed the cat's words to Lu Baiyu, who was beside him. He, the Illusion Emperor, the Cat Demon Emperor from the Demon Prefecture? Since he has a way to defeat Grandma Nine Dragons, I'm willing to enter. Lu Baiyu smiled lightly and did not reject Wang Kai's suggestion. Instead, she turned into a ray of light and entered the Skysplit Tower. Big stupid cat, you better not lose. If you really let that old witch have her way, this young master will definitely spread the news that you were framed by your beloved disciple. Wang Kai sneered as he sent a voice transmission to the old witch. If he did not provoke the big stupid cat, he might really let go of Spiritual Pill. Wang Kai, it doesn't matter if my master succeeds or not. We just need to end this battle first. Lu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai nodded lightly and looked at the three battlefields with a playful expression. One of them was the old man's army fighting against the Tianwu dynasty's army. The other was the Tianwu dynasty's army led by the Crown Prince and Yuan Hao. They were fighting against the Tianwu dynasty's Crown Prince, Tuobalai. The last one was Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty, Sky-suppressing King, Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty, and Tuoba Kuang of the Tianwu dynasty. Go and help the old man. Old Imperial Tutor Lu is also there. Leave Sky-suppressing King to me. I've said before that I will beat up Sky-suppressing King. It's time for me to fulfill my promise. Wang Kai smiled indifferently and placed his hands behind his back. With a light tap of his feet, he flashed towards Sky-suppressing King. Lu Yao nodded lightly and waved her hand. A long sword appeared in her hand and she swooped down from the sky with her white dress fluttering. Sky-suppressing King. Ben Shao is here to beat you up. Quickly show me your neck and let this young master have it in my hands. Swoosh. Wang Kai walked in the air with his hands behind his back. A cosmic form floated above his head and his voice rumbled like thunder. Martial King. Bang. Bang bang. Sky-suppressing King and Tuoba Kuang's pupils constricted when they saw this. They quickly worked together to push back Wang Shang and Wan Batian of the Tianwu dynasty. They looked coldly at Wang Kai. The three of them had clearly seen how Wang Kai had killed two upper-grade martial kings with a single strike. Now that he was here, they were instantly on their guard. Haha, good timing. Nephew Wang Kai, let's kill these two people together. Wan Batian laughed maniacally and his expression was carefree. Sky-suppressing King and Tuoba Kuang's eyes hardened when they heard this. They scolded almost simultaneously, Wan Batian. To think that you're Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty. How dare you invite a junior to help you? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. His face immediately darkened and he said angrily, Wan Batian. TSK, such a domineering name. Ben Shao has long wanted to meet you. However, now is not the time to talk about this. You'd better step aside for now. Ben Shao can at most not beat you up. Chapter 98. Wan Batian's expression turned cold when he heard this. However, when he thought about Wang Kai's current martial realm, he could only snort coldly in his heart. He retreated to the distant void with an ugly expression and smiled stiffly. Since nephew Wang Kai is so interested in fighting 1 against 2, this king will naturally grant you your wish. It's also a good opportunity to witness the rise of the divine martial dynasty's future Grand Marshal. Rise of the divine martial dynasty? Benshao has always been rising, okay? In the land of Fan Province, only Benshao reigns supreme. Who doesn't know this, who doesn't know? Wanbatian, you better shut up for Benshao now. If Benshao can't control himself, the throne of the divine martial dynasty will really change hands. Wang Kai coldly snorted with disdain. In his heart, he wanted to see just how good Wang Shang could control himself. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 boasting point. Wan Beishan's eyes immediately turned cold when he heard this. As the dynasty's Wang Shang, he was actually being reprimanded by a junior. However, when he thought about the current situation, he did not flare up in the end. Instead, he lightly nodded his head and did not say anything else. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes when he saw this and sighed regretfully in his heart. He had originally wanted to kill Wanbatian as well, but now it seemed impossible. He could only secretly hope that Prince Wankong would not provoke him again. Otherwise, he would not let him off so easily next time. After all, Prince Wankong was not on good terms with him. If Fan Province was unified, the divine martial dynasty's confidence would inevitably increase, and they would do something unfavorable to the marshal's residence. Even if the marshal's residence was not afraid, Wang Kai did not want this to happen. Any potential threat could be eliminated, but could not be left alive. Tuoba Kwang, sky-suppressing king, come at me together, Wang Kai calmly said with his hands behind his back. Swish. Whoosh. However, the heavenly king-suppressing king and Tuoba Kwang didn't hesitate at all. They chose to split up and escape. They had no intention of fighting with Wang Kai at all. Even a rank 7 martial king was killed by Wang Kai with a single sword strike. Thus, how could a rank 3 martial king possibly fight against him? Could it be that the martial king realm experts recently all like the game of eagle-catching chicks? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and rolled his eyes speechlessly. Suddenly, he took out 2 yuan chi bombs and flicked them in 2 different directions. Whoosh, whoosh, bang, bang. The heavenly king-suppressing king and Tuoba Kwang's left legs were pierced through. Blood spurted out, causing their fleeing figures to suddenly stop. They lost their balance and fell from the sky. Although those 2 yuan chi bombs only have the power of a rank 9 martial great master, with Benshao's martial king battle chi, it's enough to injure a martial king. However, if he wants to kill them, it's still a bit difficult. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. With a light tap of his feet, he immediately rushed towards the heavenly king-suppressing king. Seeing this, Wan Beishan's eyes twitched. He was secretly glad that he didn't provoke Wang Kai. Otherwise, with his current cultivation, even a battle would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Damn it! Why is this Wang Kai breaking through so quickly? Wan Beishan's eyes were cold. Bang! Bang bang! In the void far away, Wang Kai grabbed the heavenly king-suppressing king's neck and raised it up high. With an indifferent expression, he waved his fists and punched the heavenly king-suppressing king's back and waist. Benshao once said that he would beat you up one day. However, I didn't expect it to come so quickly. Sigh, it's because Benshao's talent is too monstrous. In today's world, there are simply too few people who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Benshao. It's better to say that there isn't one. Wang Kai shook his head and sighed. He punched the heavenly king-suppressing king again and again until his face turned pale and he spat out blood. It was very miserable. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 1,000 experience and bragging point. Back then on the Shinwu Academy's battle stage, Benshao also beat up your good son Wanja like this. TSK, how does it feel? It should be pretty good, right? Wang Kai said with a smile. Bang. Bang bang. Poof. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 3 martial king. You've received 2,000 experience. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai was startled. He looked at the heavenly king suppressing king's back that had been punched through. He couldn't help but raise his bloodied hand and wipe it on the heavenly king suppressing king's clothes. He curled his lips and coldly snorted, "You really can't take a beating. You're even weaker than your son." What he didn't know was that with Wang Kai's current cultivation, although he was only a rank 1 martial king, he had the power to kill enemies that surpassed rank 5 martial kings. The difference of 1 rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. It would be extremely difficult for him to take a few more punches from a full 5 rank. The heavenly king suppressing king is dead. Right now, there's only Wang Shang from the Tianwu dynasty left. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. He flipped his hand and threw the heavenly king suppressing king's corpse down from the sky. Then, he turned and chased after Tuoba Kwang. Within a mountain forest, Wang Kai floated down. He frowned and looked at the bloodstains on the ground. With a rather mocking expression, he said, "Tuoba Kwang, you can't escape. Come out quickly. Ben Shao can spare your life. However, you have to do one thing for Ben Shao." However, there was no response from the mountain forest. Seeing this, Wang Kai shrugged. With his hands behind his back, he smiled and said, "If Ben Shao uses his cosmic form to destroy this entire mountain forest, Tuoba Kwang, do you have the ability to survive?" Whoosh! Right after he finished speaking, Tuoba Kwang appeared. He limped over and snorted with a ferocious expression, "Wang Kai, I didn't expect you to have such achievements at such a young age. I'm inferior to you. If you want to kill me, do as you please." Hearing this, Wang Kai looked at him with disdain. With his hands behind his back, he said with disdain, "All right, there's no need to put on a brave front. There are no beauties here for you to show off. If you're really not afraid of death, why did you come out in fear?" "Wang Kai, what do you want me to do?" Tuoba Kwang asked coldly. "It's very simple. Kill Wang Shang of the Divine Martial Empire. Crown Prince Wan Kong cannot survive either. If you can do that, Ben Shao will naturally spare your life," Wang Kai said with a smile. Whoosh! As soon as these words came out, Tuoba Kwang was startled. He immediately grinned and said, "Hee hee. This king originally thought that heaven-suppressing king was ruthless and sinister, but I didn't expect that the truly sinister person was actually you. Later, Ben Shao will secretly use some method to injure Wan Batian. At that time, you can take the opportunity to kill him. If you fail, you will definitely die," Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. Tuoba Kwang smiled sinisterly when he heard this. His eyes flickered as he said, "How can I believe that you won't burn the bridge after crossing it? With your ability to kill a superior grade martial king in one move, if you go back on your words, I am not confident that I can survive under your hands. You don't have a choice. If you don't agree, you will die now," Wang Kai said with a cold smile as he looked at Tuoba Kwang with a cold glint in his eyes. Thud! 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 When Tuoba Kwang saw the killing intent in Wang Kai's eyes, he was so frightened that his face turned pale. He could not help but take a few steps back. He gritted his teeth and said, "I hope you can keep your word. Hee hee, you don't have to worry about that. Ben Shao doesn't have any other good points, but he values promises the most," Wang Kai said with a smile. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience and 1 bragging point. Thank you to the friends who voted for me. I rarely ask for votes here because I'm afraid that it will affect your reading mood. However, you still took the initiative to vote for me. I am truly grateful." Chapter 99. Under the leadership of the old man and the assistance of Liu Yao, the 200,000 royal generals easily defeated the remaining troops of the Tianwu dynasty. Together with the remaining troops of the Tianwu dynasty, there were a total of 500,000 soldiers on the battlefield. In this battle, the Tianwu dynasty suffered a crushing defeat. More than half of Marshal Tuoba's million-strong army was wiped out. The remaining troops either escaped or were injured. They had already retreated back to the Tianwu dynasty. However, what awaited them was still the pursuit of the Tianwu dynasty's army. The Tianwu dynasty had unified the Fan province, and the outcome was already decided. Tianwu dynasty's crown prince, Wan Kong, I, Tuoba Lai, will not submit to you. If not for the help of others, you won't even be 1/10 of Tuoba Lai's strength. Tianwu dynasty's army numbered in the hundreds of thousands, and Crown Prince Tuoba Lai was among them. At this moment, his body was wrapped in pitch-black chains. He was half kneeling on the ground as he cursed at Wan Kong with a ferocious expression. Impudent! Bang! Seeing this, a soldier angrily scolded and kicked Tuoba Lai to the ground. However, Tuoba Lai still held his head high. His face was covered in dirt and blood, and his sinister smile was extremely terrifying. Tianwu dynasty's crown prince, Wan Kong, is trash. Haha. You're not even comparable to me, Tuoba Lai. Tuoba Lai laughed maniacally. You're courting death, stop. Just as the soldier was about to swing his long blade, Crown Prince Wan Kong waved his hand and stopped him. He quickly walked forward and looked down at Tuoba Lai. He coldly said, "Do you want to have a fair fight with me in exchange for a chance to live?" "That's right. I, Tuoba Lai, am the #1 young expert in the Tianwu dynasty. The Tuoba family lives on war. Although we lost to the Tianwu dynasty today, we didn't lose to your Wan family's authority. If you dare to fight with me, Tuoba Lai, I'll definitely cut off your dog head." Tuoba Lai laughed sinisterly. Their insults and disdainful expressions caused many of the soldiers to feel anger in their hearts. "Your Highness! So what if we fight him?" A soldier couldn't help but shout. "Fight! Fight! Fight!" In an instant, many soldiers raised their spears and shouted in unison, full of the might of soldiers. "Your Highness, now is the best time to display your might. Tuoba Lai is right. The one who truly defeated the Tianwu Empire should be Wang Kai and his 200,000 Wang Kai army. Even Liu Yao is engaged to Wang Kai. If this continues, I'm afraid that the throne will be in danger." Yuan Hao softly transmitted. Prince Wankong narrowed his eyes and replied coldly, "So what? Could it be that the Wang clan dares to rebel?" "Your Highness, it's not that the Wang clan doesn't dare. If the Wang clan really intends to rebel, the divine martial dynasty will definitely be replaced. Plus, once the war is settled, the Fan province will be unified. Such a great temptation, no one can resist it. With Heavenly King suppressing King as an example, don't make the same mistake again." Yuan Hao transmitted his voice. The Heavenly King suppression was the brother of Wang Shang of the divine martial dynasty. Yet, he was able to rebel at the crucial moment of the war between the two dynasties. Prince Wankong's expression was extremely cold. Indeed, the Wang clan was too powerful. They had been powerful since the beginning and were still powerful even now. Furthermore, they even had Wang Kai who could kill a high-rank martial king. If it was before, it would be fine. Due to the agreement with Emperor Fan, Uncle Fu couldn't act as he pleased. With Marshal Wang's rank 3 martial king cultivation, even with the 200,000 Wang generals, it would be extremely difficult to overthrow the divine martial dynasty. However, now Wang Kai could kill a high-rank martial king by himself. Even Wang Shang of the divine martial dynasty was no match for him. If the Wang clan rebelled, there was no need for Uncle Fu to act. They could easily unify the Fan province. Thinking of that, a strong sense of danger surged into his heart. Prince Wankong's expression became even colder. He clenched his teeth and transmitted, "If the Wang clan truly wants to rebel, what can I do even if I defeat Tuoba Lai? Your Highness, the ruler of the world needs the hearts of the people. If your Highness can obtain the hearts of the army here, You can lead the army to unify the Tianwu dynasty and treat the defeated army and commoners of the Tianwu dynasty well. The real crime of murder was committed by the Wang clan. Yuan Hao sneered and transmitted. Prince Wankong was startled when he heard that. Joy immediately appeared in his eyes. Indeed, the Wang clan defeated the Tianwu dynasty, and Wang Kai annihilated the Tianwu dynasty's army of several 100,000 with a flick of his finger. Such cruel methods would definitely cause the Tianwu dynasty to resent him. As a member of the royal family, he could pacify the people and push the crime of murder onto the Wang clan. Whoever wins the people's hearts wins the world. Your Highness, even if the Wang clan rebelled, they would definitely be condemned by the people. The Wang clan's royal power would be even stronger. I'm afraid that Emperor Fan will also stand on our side. Yuan Hao transmitted. Prince Wankong nodded his head and looked coldly at Tuoba Lai. He suddenly waved his arms and shouted, "Tuoba Lai, since you want to fight, I will grant your wish. Soldiers, please release him." "Yes, Your Highness." "Fight! Fight! Fight!" In an instant, several 100,000 soldiers of the Tianwu dynasty shouted in unison. Even Wang Shuai's army cheered. They had long been displeased with Tuoba Lai's arrogant insults to the Tianwu dynasty. Now that Wan Kong had accepted the challenge, they naturally supported him wholeheartedly. "Hee, Prince Wankong, I didn't expect you to have such guts. However, I'm afraid your plan will fail." Tuoba Lai grinned hideously and tore off the tiger's skin on his body, revealing his strong and bulging muscles. Buzz! Rumble! An invisible force formed around Tuoba Lai's body. At the same time, his aura surged violently. "Oh no! He is about to break through to the martial king realm. Your Highness, quickly kill him." Yuan Hao's face changed and he quickly transmitted his voice to remind Prince Wankong. Prince Wankong's eyes narrowed. How could he not see that Tuoba Lai was about to break through to the martial king realm? Even the countless soldiers around them could see the trick. If they attacked now, wouldn't they be a laughingstock? Your Highness, Tuoba Lai hid his strength. It should have been a fair fight, but he took the opportunity to break through to the martial king realm. This is a despicable act. Your Highness, please kill him. Yuan Hao's eyes flickered. Naturally, he could see that the crown prince was in a difficult position. He spoke bluntly and his voice reverberated throughout the battlefield. Many soldiers were stunned by Yuan Hao's words. However, they agreed with Yuan Hao's words. Prince Wankong and Tuoba Lai were both 9th-grade martial grandmasters. This was a fair fight. If they hid their strength and broke through to the martial king realm, it would be unfair. "Kill him! Kill! Kill! Kill!" Many of the soldiers immediately shouted. However, when the Wankong crown prince was secretly delighted and was about to attack, a voice rang out in his mind. "Kong there's no need to do this. When he successfully breaks through to the martial king realm, I will help him secretly. This way, the Wan family's prestige will rise. When the time comes, I will let you lead the army. The marshal's mansion is so powerful that the Wan family is no match for it. We can only balance it with the hearts of the soldiers." When Wan Kong heard this, he was even more delighted. He glanced around and saw Wan Batian in the void. It seemed that his father was also suspicious of the marshal's mansion. However, this was exactly what he wanted. He waved his arms and said heroically, "There's no need to do this. When he successfully breaks through to the martial king realm, it won't be too late for me to kill him." Chapter 100. Long live the Crown Prince! Long live the Crown Prince! In an instant, the army was led by Prince Wankong. They raised their spears and cheered. They were willing to wait for Tuoba Lai to break through to the martial king realm. His magnanimity and confidence won the hearts of all the soldiers. "Crown Prince, why are you doing this? Are you going to break through to the martial king realm?" Yuan Hao asked with a frown. Prince Wankong shook his head and replied confidently, "Don't worry. Father will help me in secret. When Tuoba Lai breaks through to the martial king realm, he will not be a match for me. I see. That's great. I wish the Crown Prince a great success in unifying Fan Province. Yuan Hao was overjoyed. He quickly sent a message to congratulate Crown Prince Wankong. Crown Prince Wankong's smile widened. Whoosh! Tuoba Lai's surging aura suddenly stopped. He casually waved his hand and grabbed a soldier's spear. With a ferocious smile, he threw the spear into the air and shouted, "Heavy divine spear!" As the huge spear appeared above his head, a strong and oppressive aura suddenly descended. The Tuoba royal family's inherited cultivation method, heaven and earth dharma power, heavy divine spear. Wankong, I thought you would use this opportunity to stop me from breaking through to the martial king realm. I didn't expect you to be so brave. Tuoba Lai laughed ferociously. The veins on his body were bulging, and he looked terrifying. Wankong's expression was full of disdain. He pulled out the long sword at his waist and pointed it at Tuoba Lai. He shouted, "Tuoba Lai, I am willing to accept you as my subordinate because you are brave and good at fighting. What do you think?" Bang! Bang! Tuoba Lai licked his lips and stomped his feet. The ground trembled and he laughed ferociously. "Wankong, today is your death anniversary. Die!" Whoosh! When Tuoba Lai attacked Wankong, everyone held their breaths. They stared at Wankong excitedly, waiting for him to defeat Tuoba Lai. With Imperial Father's secret help, so what if he breaks through to the martial king realm? You're just a rank one. Prince Wankong's heart was filled with disdain. He held the long sword in his hand and stabbed out without hesitation. In the distant void, Wang Shang and Wan Batian of the divine martial dynasty stood in the air as they watched Tuoba Lai's attack. They raised their palms and were about to launch a sneak attack. However, just as they raised their arms, they were caught. All of a sudden, Wang Kai appeared beside Wan Batian and easily grabbed his wrist. Then, he loosened his grip and punched Wan Baishan's chest. Bang! Seeing this, Wan Baishan's eyes bulged and he was forced to take a few steps back. He looked at Wang Kai in shock and snorted, "Nephew Wang Kai, what do you mean by this?" "Hee, that's enough." Wang Kai put his hands behind his back and smiled calmly. "That's enough?" Wan Batian was confused. He did not understand what Wang Kai was talking about. Or was he hinting at something? However, Wan Batian did not have time to think. He quickly looked at the place where Wankong and Tuoba Lai were fighting. When he saw that Wankong was being beaten up by Tuoba Lai, his face turned pale with anger. He was about to operate his battle chi to help Tuoba Lai secretly. What? The moment he operated his battle chi, Wan Baishan's face turned pale. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. He could not stand in the air any longer and immediately fell down from the sky. Patter! Wang Kai flashed and supported Wan Batian in the air by waving his arms. Then, he looked at Wan Batian calmly and said with a smile, "Wan Batian, don't blame Benshao for being merciless. You can only blame yourself for being merciless. Benshao doesn't like to wait for others to plot against him. As long as he finds the slightest danger, he will choose to strike first." "It's you." Wan Batian stared at Wang Kai ferociously. It was not until now that he realized that Wang Kai must have secretly used his battle chi. Otherwise, he would have been able to operate his battle chi. Wang Kai's expression was still indifferent. That punch just now was a high-level zone realm martial skill, tremor chi fist. Although it looked simple and unadorned, once it hit, the target would not be able to use their battle chi for a short period of time. Wan Batian, die! Swish! Suddenly, a furious roar resounded, causing Wan Batian to be startled. He turned around abruptly and was surprised to see that Tuoba Kwang, who had fled earlier, was actually charging towards him menacingly. Cosmic form of heaven and earth, spear of heavy god. 1. The huge spear floating above Tuoba Kwang's head suddenly chopped down, aiming at Wan Baishan's head. Goodbye. Position swap. Swish. Wang Kai disappeared immediately. Wan Batian, who had lost his support, immediately fell from the sky. He roared crazily, "Wang Kai, you puff!" Crack! However, before Wan Batian finished his words, his body had been split open by the heavy divine spear, turning into a rain of blood and bone fragments that fell from the sky. Wang Shang! Damn Tuoba Kwang, how dare you attack Wang Shang? Wang Kai appeared in the void in the distance. He pretended to be furious and shouted loudly. His voice spread over thousands of miles and was heard clearly by the hundreds of thousands of soldiers. Swish! Tuoba Kwang's face turned pale. He glared at Wang Kai and waved his hands to control the heavy divine spear to hack at Wang Kai. You overestimate yourself. Tuoba Kwang, Ben Shao will kill you to avenge Wang Shang. Wang Kai's expression was cold. He immediately took out the netherworld sword and swept it in the air. With a crack, the heavy divine spear was smashed into pieces. Bang! Bang bang! Tuoba Lai rode on Prince Wan Kong and punched him a few more times. He stood up and grabbed Wan Kong's neck. Looking at Tuoba Kwang, who appeared beside him, he quickly grinned and said, "Father, it seems that we didn't lose to the royal family of the Divine Martial Empire." At this moment, Prince Wan Kong's face was covered with bruises and wounds. His clothes were tattered and covered in dust. After being humiliated and beaten by Tuoba Lai, he was in a miserable state. His mind was in a mess. Damn it! Why? What exactly happened? Prince Wan Kong roared in his heart. He was originally full of confidence, but in the end, he was severely humiliated by Tuoba Lai. Many of the soldiers saw this. This made Prince Wan Kong feel ashamed and angry, but he didn't know how to deal with it. Humph, this Wan Kong has some guts, but he's a little stupid. He actually waited for me to successfully break through to the Martial King realm. At first, I thought that he had some ability, but who knew? He was lying on the ground without even the strength to fight back. Ha! Tuoba Lai laughed disdainfully. When these words came out, Prince Wan Kong's eyes were about to split open. Especially when he saw the strange looks in the eyes of the soldiers, he was so angry that he spat out a mouthful of blood and fainted on the spot. Chapter 101. I have already killed Wan Batian. Now, the divine martial dynasty is without a leader. Only the crown prince, Wan Kong, remains. He was also defeated and captured by my son. If you do not wish for the divine martial dynasty's royal bloodline to end, quickly get out of the way and let me and my son leave safely. Tuoba Kwang sneered sternly. The divine martial dynasty had fallen, and the crown prince had been captured. Many of the soldiers had already heard Wang Kai's reprimand. They also remembered how Prince Wan Kong had been captured. At this moment, they tightly gripped their spears and surrounded Tuoba Kwang and his son. Martial King experts, quickly retreat. Let them leave. Ben Shao will rescue the crown prince later. Whoosh! Wang Kai floated down from the sky expressionlessly. Everywhere he passed, the soldiers took the initiative to respectfully retreat. Regardless of whether it was the 200,000 Wang Kai's army or the remaining soldiers of the divine martial dynasty, all of them were filled with fanatical reverence for Wang Kai. In the blink of an eye, he had annihilated hundreds of thousands of enemies. In one move, he had killed a superior-grade martial king. Even the sky-suppressing king had been destroyed by him. No matter which one it was enough to make people admire him. Yes, young commander. The 200,000 Wang Kai's army immediately accepted the order and retreated in unison. When the remaining soldiers saw this, they quickly retreated as well. This caused Tuoba Kwang and Tuoba Lai to inwardly sigh in relief. Wang Kai, you are very strong. I, Tuoba Lai, have never been convinced by anyone in my life. You are the first. Tuoba Lai licked his lips and smiled nastily. When Wang Kai heard this, his expression was indifferent. He placed his hands behind his back and said indifferently, "Tuoba Lai, if you have the guts to fight with Benshao, as long as you can survive one move from Benshao, not to mention letting you and your son leave safely, even if you want to unify the Fan province, my marshal's residence's Wang clan will not interfere." Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, Tuoba Lai was stunned. However, he quickly reacted and grinned without any shame on his face. "Wang Kai, I won't fall for your trick. With your ability, even if all the martial kings here were to attack together, it would be difficult for them to survive under your hands, let alone me." Hearing this, the expressions of the army became even more interesting. On the contrary, they did not care too much about the death of Wang Shang of the Divine Martial Empire. Instead, their respect for Wang Kai increased exponentially. Tuoba Lai had previously challenged Prince Wankong to a duel, but in the end, he had beaten up Prince Wankong and captured him. And now, when Wang Kai took the initiative to challenge him, Tuoba Lai did not even have the guts to accept the challenge. Scram! Wang Kai snorted coldly with his hands behind his back. Whoosh! Whoosh! Tuoba Kwang and Tuoba Lai deeply looked at Wang Kai, then grabbed Prince Wankong and left in the air. "Commander Wang, please save His Highness the Crown Prince. Otherwise, the Divine Martial Empire will have no leader." A royal family martial king knelt down on one knee. Soon after, the other soldiers also knelt down and begged. Tuoba Kwang was a rank 3 martial king, while the martial kings present were only rank 1. Even the 7 generals of the Commander Wang's army were only rank 2 martial kings. Even if all the martial kings chased after him together, they would not be able to defeat Tuoba Kwang, a rank 3 martial king. Moreover, Tuoba Kwang still had His Highness the Crown Prince as a hostage. Hearing that, Wang Kai lightly nodded. Then, he glanced at the heaven-reaching tower in the sky. Beside it, the old man, Lu Yao, and the 7 generals of the Commander Wang's army were all present. They surrounded the heaven-reaching tower in the middle. Their expressions were alert as they entered a battle stance. "Soldiers, please be at ease. Benshao will definitely bring His Highness the Crown Prince back." Wang Kai indifferently smiled, then stepped into the air and disappeared into the horizon. Within a dense forest in the northern mountains, Tuoba Kwang and Tuoba Lai were both standing in the forest, waiting. As for Prince Wankong, he was casually thrown to the ground, still unconscious. "Wang Kai, I've already completed your task. I hope you won't go back on your words," Tuoba Kwang coldly said. Whoosh! Wang Kai's figure suddenly appeared in midair. With his hands behind his back, he indifferently glanced at them and indifferently said, "Leave Fan Province." At this moment, Tuoba Lai also knew the whole story. He sincerely admired Wang Kai's ability and ruthlessness. Looking up at Wang Kai, he grinned and said, "I look forward to meeting you again in the future. Although I admire your ruthlessness, what I hate the most is being used and schemed against. If your martial skills are not as good as mine in the future, don't blame me for being ruthless." Without any hesitation, Tuoba Kwang and Tuoba Lai directly rose into the air and disappeared. They did not take any precautions against Wang Kai, because they knew very well that if Wang Kai wanted to kill them, even if they were on guard, it would be useless. "Yuan Hao, can you come out now?" Wang Kai said with a playful smile. With his hands behind his back, his figure slowly floated to Prince Wankong's side. Whoosh! "Wang Kai, I didn't think that all of this was part of your plan." Yuan Hao walked out of the dense forest with an ashen face. His eyes were filled with indignation and anger. As a descendant of the Grand Chancellor's residence, he specialized in the art of governance. Although his military strategy was not as good as the imperial advisor's Lu family, he was still considered a rare genius in Fan Province. But today, he had been schemed against by Wang Kai, who only knew how to boast. Even when he had succeeded, he still did not realize it. Such a deep sense of defeat made Yuan Hao extremely angry. Haha, Yuan Hao, you may not understand the martial world. In this world, the weak are prey to the strong. All schemes must be carried out with equal ability. If you are not strong enough and do not have many trump cards, no matter how smart you are destined to fail in the end. Wang Kai said indifferently with a smile. Yuan Hao was stunned when he heard this. His expression was ugly as he gritted his teeth and said, "Are you praising yourself for being strong enough and having many trump cards? That's right. The winner is the king and the loser is the bandit. History will always be recorded by the winner. Ben Shao is strong enough, so he can threaten to Obakwang to become Ben Shao's chess piece. The strength of a rank 3 martial king is one of the strongest in Fan Province. With such trump cards and Ben Shao's ability to easily injure Wan Batian, do you think he still has a way out? What's more, a mere crown prince Wankong first class. Haha, this young master has never taken him seriously from the start." After Wang Kai finished speaking, Yuan Hao had already sunk into silence. Indeed, even though he had thousands of schemes, he did not have any trump cards that he could use. It was because he did not have any trump cards that could suppress the Marshal's Wang family that he chose to use the people's hearts as a method to keep them in check. But in the end, under Wang Kai's absolute strength, he disappeared in the blink of an eye. "You said all this because you don't plan to leave anyone alive, right?" Yuan Hao said in a deep voice. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard that. He suddenly walked up to Prince Wan Kong, grabbed him by the collar, waved his hand, and gave him 2 slaps. "Don't worry, Ben Shao won't kill you because you are still useful. However, the mistake of acting pretentious in front of Ben Shao cannot be easily forgotten." Chapter 102. Haha, that's not necessarily true. The real loser is you. Yuan Hao's face suddenly changed and was filled with an inexplicable smile. Plop! Wang Kai's eyes narrowed slightly when he heard this. He flipped his hand and threw the Wankong crown prince to the ground. He looked at him playfully and chuckled softly. "Oh? How did Ben Shao lose? Judging from the current situation, Ben Shao has not lost at all. Great Rock King, it's time for you to come out and meet him." Yuan Hao smiled faintly. Great Rock King? Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank as he felt a heavy pressure descend from the sky. He immediately raised his head and saw a burly figure standing high up in the sky. Beside him was a familiar figure of a young man. It was Little Rock King Peng 9. "Greetings, Your Highness Great Rock King, the future Wang Shang of the Great Demon Dynasty." Yuan Hao smiled and bowed to the sky. "Great Demon Dynasty?" Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and put his hands behind his back. He laughed mockingly. "Golden Rock King, no wonder Ben Shao did not see you on the battlefield. Little Rock King also did not return after chasing after the generals of the palace of the suppressing Heavenly Lord. So you are here to overthrow the Shenwu dynasty." Ben Shao is surprised. It was hard to imagine that Yuan Hao of the Grand Chancellor's palace would submit to the Great Rock King. And the Great Rock King's palace's goal was to unify Fan State and establish the Great Demon Dynasty. I originally wanted to lure the Wankong Crown Prince to create a rift in the Wang family's heart and speed up the battle between you two, but I didn't expect you to make the first move. But it's fine, this way we can just sit back and reap the benefits," Yuan Hao said lightly. "Yuan Hao, you dare to frame this Crown Prince?" Cough cough. Prince Wankong woke up with a pale face. Hearing what Yuan Hao said, he was so angry that he gritted his teeth. The Great Peng King and the Little Peng King landed one after another. Following closely behind, dozens of figures with powerful auras appeared from all directions in a flash. Every one of them was wearing a long black robe. From head to toe, only their eyes could be seen. Their auras were all superior-grade martial kings. "Father, leave Wang Kai to me," Little Pring King said in a low voice. The Rock King frowned slightly. He glanced at Wang Kai and shook his head. No, I'm at the same level as Ford. If he interferes, I'm afraid things will change. It's better to end the battle quickly. You should capture him together. Whoosh! Swoosh! In an instant, dozens of martial kings attacked Wang Kai. Streams of vigorous cyan battle chi, accompanied by the pressure of the martial king realm, swept out in all directions. Haha, if you want to capture Benshao, let's see if you have the ability to do so. Wang Kai smiled coldly. His body suddenly stepped into the air. His whole body was covered in blood-red and black light. 8 inner hidden gates. 8 inner gates opened simultaneously. Wang Kai's aura surged wildly. His eyes were red and his veins were bulging. He put his hands together and formed a hollow shape. Suddenly, he circulated his battle chi and shone it down. Little Pring King frowned slightly when he saw this. He had naturally seen Wang Kai's martial skill in Tong Tian Tower. However, in the end, he only opened his mouth and did not say anything to remind Wang Kai. Solar Fist. Buzz. When a dazzling light shone down, it was so dazzling that the dozens of martial kings couldn't help but close their eyes. Even the great Ping King squinted his eyes slightly. He flipped his hand and threw out a battle chi blade. Bang! What? Wang Kai, who was about to dive down, was suddenly hit by the battle chi blade. After forcibly stopping himself, he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. His face instantly became as pale as paper. Great Pring King, you're attacking a junior like me. Aren't you a little shameless? Wang Kai's eyes were cold. He raised his hand and wiped away the blood at the corner of his mouth. With his current cultivation, even if he opened all 8 inner gates, he was still no match for the Great Pring King. The Great Pring King snorted coldly. He suddenly waved his sleeve and released a terrifying pressure. It immediately swept up into the air and directly bound Wang Kai's body. Tie him up, the Great Pring King said indifferently. Whoosh! A few martial kings hurriedly accepted the order and soared into the air. They took out pitch-black chains and bound Wang Kai's hands and feet tightly. Haha, this way, it's certain that we'll force Ford out of Fan Province. When that time comes, Fan Province will be unified. Yuan Hao said with a smile. The Great Pring King nodded slightly. With his hands behind his back, he looked emotionlessly at Crown Prince Wan Kong and said in a low voice, If you hand over the other token of Emperor Fan, I can spare your life. Prince Wan Kong's face suddenly changed. He didn't expect the Great Pring King to also want the token of Emperor Fan. He stared coldly at Yuan Hao and scolded sternly, What is the use of the token of Emperor Fan? House Lord Bai Yu's martial attainment was unfathomable. Despite being an outsider expert, no one in the Fan Province was able to move him. Yet, Yuan Hao came up with the idea that Emperor Fan's token could move Liu Bai. Now that the Great Pring King asked for the token of Emperor Fan, Wan Kong felt that something was wrong. Haha, there's no harm in telling you. The token of Emperor Fan isn't just about meeting Emperor Fan. If you can get Emperor Fan's approval, you can obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance. There are a total of 6 tokens of Emperor Fan. The lords of the 3 dynasties each have 2. It's a pity that your Wan family doesn't know that you have a mountain of treasures. Yuan Hao sneered disdainfully. Prince Wan Kong's face changed drastically. He roared like a madman, Impossible! The previous Wang Shang of the War Martial Dynasty used the token of Emperor Fan once, when he was about to die. In the end, there was no news of him. The 2 previous Wang Shang of the Tianwu dynasty also met the same fate. If they can really obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance, why didn't they appear in the world again? 3 former martial kings had disappeared without a trace after using the Emperor Fan medallion. This made the royal Wan family of the Divine Martial Dynasty not dare to use the Emperor Fan medallion. But who knew that there was a secret behind it? Humph! That's because they didn't have the talent to be valued by Emperor Fan. Their lifespans were nearing their end, but they still wanted to see Emperor Fan by chance. How could they obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance with such a temperament? Yuan Hao said disdainfully. Impossible. This is impossible. Prince Wan Kong was in a frenzy. Suddenly, a sense of regret welled up in his heart. If he had known about this earlier, how could he have given Emperor Fan's token to Lu Baiyu? Swoosh. A martial king, under the indication of the great Ping King's gaze, arrived before Wan Kong and captured him. After carefully searching his body, he broke open his interspatial ring to investigate. Your Highness, the token of Emperor Fan is not on him, the martial king expert said respectfully. Chapter 103. Divine Martial Dynasty, Royal City, Royal Palace. Wang Kai's body was bound by pitch-black chains. He was unable to move in the slightest. He secretly tried to break free but discovered that he could not move the chains in the slightest with his martial cultivation. It was like Lu Yao's king binding rope. He was unable to break free. The great Ping King is truly impatient. He actually chose to bring Ben Shao back to the royal city to force Uncle Fu out of the Fan province? I wonder how the old man and the others are doing? Has the divine martial dynasty's army returned? Wang Kai frowned as he pondered in his heart. He looked at the gloomy palace. At the entrance of the palace, there were 10 high-rank martial kings guarding it. With his current cultivation, if he were to use his bloodline's power and the 8 inner hidden gates, he would only be able to fight against a rank 7 martial king. However, the 10 martial kings guarding the outer court were all rank 9 martial kings. Wang Kai was unable to think of where the golden-winged great Ping King had gotten so many rank 9 martial kings. In the Fan province, the strongest should be rank 3 martial kings. Only Beitang Qianjun was able to become a mid-rank martial king. Furthermore, he became a mid-rank martial king with the help of Elder Lingdan. Elder Lingdan had devoured the power of the heaven-reaching tower's spirit. It was not difficult for him to become a peak martial king. Furthermore, the outsider's cultivation had already surpassed that of a martial king. Right now, he was only a rank 9 martial king. But even so, the number of martial kings in the Fan province was still extremely limited. That's right. That little girl Lu Yao once said that the little Ping King is the descendant of the demon province's golden-winged Great Ping. The golden-winged Great Ping clan is one of the strongest clans in the demon province. Could it be? Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. He couldn't help but ponder. Emperor Fan's title plate, Emperor Fan's inheritance, heaven-reaching tower, and the outsider. Wang Kai suddenly felt a layer of fog blocking his path. However, no matter how he thought about it, he was unable to think of anything. Even if Emperor Fan's cultivation was unfathomably high, why would the demon province outside of the Fan province covet it? Why did they come to the Fan province? Can you release the shackles? Wang Kai urged his mind and secretly communicated with the system. Host, this chain contains a king-tier treasure. Removing it requires 10 bragging points. When Wang Kai heard the system notification, he was stunned. The chain was made from a king-class natural treasure. However, after thinking about it, he did not pay too much attention to it. Compared to Lu Yao's king binding lasso, which contained the aura of her bloodline, the amount of bragging points required was still too little. Break it, Wang Kai said. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking the binding chains. 10 bragging points have been consumed. When the chains on him slowly loosened, Wang Kai hurriedly extended his hand and carefully grasped the chains. Without letting them make a single sound, he directly stored them in his space ring. There are 10 rank 9 martial kings guarding outside. Right now, I am only a rank 1 martial king. If I am able to kill them, a rank 9 martial king would be able to obtain 8 levels of experience, a total of 8,000. 10 of them would be 80,000. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and calculated. Host, Wang Kai profession, martial artist realm, rank 1 martial king cultivation technique, immemorial divine king technique martial skills. 8 inner hidden gates, transposition, omniscient slice, tremor fist, 1 origin sword, origin bullet equipment, netherworld sword bloodline, rank 5 bragging points, 11 experience, 2200030000. Wang Kai quickly glanced at the experience required to break through. He secretly frowned and thought, if I want to deal with the golden-winged Great Ping King with my bloodline power and the 8 inner hidden gates, I need to at least break through to rank 3 Martial King. This meant that he needed to kill at least 5 rank 9 Martial Kings in order to break through to rank 3 Martial King. Even though the golden-winged Great Ping King's cultivation was originally unfathomable and was not someone a Martial King could defeat, he was currently in the Fan Province. His cultivation was suppressed to the peak of rank 9 Martial King. The only difference was the strength of his physical body. 8 inner hidden gates. Open all 8 gates. Wang Kai gritted his teeth and shouted in a low voice. His entire body was suddenly covered in a blood-red and black light. His eyes were red and his veins were bulging. His aura was rapidly rising. At the same time, he quickly took out chains to bind himself, creating a series of clanking sounds. Pata! The palace's door suddenly opened. 10 martial kings in black robes appeared in the palace. They approached Wang Kai with vigilant expressions. Humph! You are merely an inferior-grade martial king. Do you think you can break free from the king-grade lock made of black iron crystal? You're overestimating yourself. A martial king coldly snorted in disdain. The other 9 martial kings' eyes were also filled with disdain. They casually glanced at him. The martial king in the lead said, "Leave 2 people behind to watch him. Although his cultivation is low, he has opened his bloodline power. His aura has already reached rank 7 Martial King. In order to avoid any mistakes that might anger His Majesty the Golden-Winged Great Ping King, it's best to be careful." Yes. Immediately after, 2 rank 9 Martial Kings accepted the order. The other 8 people left the palace and closed the palace's door, guarding outside. Only 2 people were left behind. Weren't they looking down on Ben Shao too much? Wang Kai coldly smiled in his heart. He narrowed his eyes and looked at the 2 martial kings. His hands that were tied behind his back were slightly clenched, waiting for the best opportunity to attack. If they were to fight head-on, he would definitely not be a match for a rank 9 martial king. The difference of 1 rank was like the difference between heaven and earth. Wang Kai was not willing to take the risk. I advise you to obediently wait here. His Majesty the Golden-Winged Great Ping King will not kill you. The martial king coldly snorted in disdain. He immediately sat cross-legged on Wang Kai's left. As for the other martial king, he sat on Wang Kai's right. 1 on the left and 1 on the right. The distance between them was 20 meters. Seeing that, Wang Kai tightly furrowed his brows. His heart slightly sank. With such a distance and the way they were guarding, it was indeed difficult to kill both of them without making a sound. If they were to explode, they would definitely alert the guards outside. It seems that the Golden-Winged Great Ping King already knows about my position-shifting martial skill. Every time I shift, the distance is only 10 meters. And these 2 people are 20 meters away from me. If I attack, I can only barely kill one of them. Wang Kai thought in his heart. Immediately, he felt a bit helpless. It seemed that in the future he needed to leave some backup plans. Or else, if the enemy knew about him, he would really be at his wits' end. Ho-ho, your golden-winged Great Ping King naturally wouldn't dare to kill Ben Shao. Not for anything else, but because of Ben Shao's mysterious and powerful origin. Even the golden-winged Great Ping King of the Demon Province's Peak Clan wouldn't dare to be too rash. Wang Kai indifferently smiled and said, "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. When the 2 martial kings heard this, their eyes flashed, but they did not respond. From the beginning to the end, they believed that Wang Kai's identity was not simple. Otherwise, Uncle Fu, who could stand shoulder to shoulder with the golden-winged Great Pring King, would not be willing to be an old housekeeper in the marshal's mansion. Don't blame Ben Shao for being ruthless. You guys are really stupid. As human warriors, you actually became subordinates of a demonic beast. TSK, if you were willing to follow Ben Shao, you could at least become a proper human expert and a member of a super force. You wouldn't have to be like now, bowing and scraping to a demonic beast and making people laugh. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and continued to laugh. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and 1 bragging point. Chapter 104. Ignorant commoner. How can you fathom the ambitions of His Majesty, the Great Rock King? The martial king expert on the left snorted disdainfully. The martial king expert on the right of Wang Kai nodded in agreement. His tone was full of anticipation. Once Ford is expelled from Fan Province, Granny Nine Dragons will also leave. When that time comes, Fan Province will no longer have a strong enemy that can stand shoulder to shoulder with His Majesty the Great Rock King. Once Fan Province is unified and Emperor Fan's inheritance is obtained, the combined power of the province will definitely be at the top of the 7 provinces and 1 island. Shut up. Don't spout nonsense. Do you want to be executed by His Majesty the Great Rock King? The martial king expert on the left scolded. What are you afraid of? Ford's withdrawal from Fan Province is a foregone conclusion. Even if he knows our plan, what can he do? Once he leaves Fan Province, it won't be so easy to come back. The martial king expert on the right laughed carelessly. Emperor Fan's inheritance, the power of 1 province, the top of the 7 provinces and 1 island? The more Wang Kai listened, the more confused he became. He had only heard of the Wu Zhou, the Fo Zhou, the Yao Zhou, and the Ming Zhou. Including the Fan Zhou, there were only 5 Zhou. Where did the remaining 2 Zhou and 1 island come from? The truly ignorant idiots are you. Even if Uncle Fu and Granny Nine Dragons have withdrawn from Fan Province, there are still 2 other experts in Fan Province who can stand shoulder to shoulder with the Great Rock King. Yes, they are Ben Shao's best friends. As long as Ben Shao says the word, they will definitely pull out the Great Rock King's wings. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and sneered. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 1,000 experience points and bragging points by 1 point. Congratulations to the host for bragging hundreds of times and achieving the small bragging achievement. With this achievement, the bragging reward will be increased tenfold. Hearing this, Wang Kai's expression froze. He didn't pay any attention to the words of the 2 martial kings. Instead, he fell into a state of ecstasy. The reward for bragging was increased by 10 times. How awesome would that be? Bragging now only gave him 1,000 experience points. Breaking through to the next level required 30,000 experience points. This meant that he would need to brag 30 times before he could break through by 1 grade. However, if the reward for bragging was increased tenfold, wouldn't that mean that bragging would earn him 10,000 points and 10 bragging points? Wang Kai swallowed a mouthful of saliva and couldn't help smacking his lips. He couldn't believe it in his heart. He immediately cleared his throat and shook his head tentatively with a smile. This young master is really so handsome that the sky is falling and the earth is cracking. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 2 Martial King. It had really increased tenfold. Hundreds of small bragging rewards will be increased by 10 times if they are successful. Then, what if there were thousands of them in the future? How awesome was that? Wang Kai suddenly felt his blood rush to his head. He felt goosebumps all over his body. He couldn't wait to fight and vent his anger. Brat, I've long heard that your bragging skills are very strong. Now that I've seen it, I really admire you. The Martial King expert on the left said with his mouth twitching. The Martial King expert on the right also felt his eyelids twitch. They were originally discussing the big matter of the Rock King, but in the end they suddenly bragged. This was really hard to accept. Wang Kai's expression was indifferent when he heard this. He suddenly closed all the 8 inner hidden gates. When he felt a sense of weakness, he quickly communicated with the system and said, "Quickly recover." Congratulations to the host for successfully recovering to his peak state. A total of 15 bragging points have been consumed. Burning the power of the bloodline required 5 bragging points. Burning the power of the soul required 5 bragging points. The injuries caused by the burning of the bloodline and soul required 5 bragging points. Wang Kaiwen shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly when he heard the notification. It was within his expectations. If he were to use the One Origin sword, he would need at least 30 bragging points to recover. However, with the bragging reward increased by 10 times, a mere 10 bragging points were nothing in his eyes. Haha, you're flattering me. Benshio's bragging skills are only second. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. The 2 Martial King experts were stunned when they heard this. They looked at each other and couldn't help but be interested. They asked almost in unison, "Then who is first?" Wang Kai looked at them with disdain. He curled his lips and said disdainfully, "Ben Shao claims to be second in the world when it comes to bragging. Let me ask you, who would dare to claim to be first?" Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. When these words came out, the 2 Martial King experts' mouths twitched. They were extremely shocked. Haha, it's about time. Ben Shao won't stay here to brag with you. It's time to beat up that great Pring King. The weather is getting cold. It's time to get some wing feathers to weave a sweater. The golden-winged Great Pring King's feathers are not bad. They have a fiery feeling. Wang Kai smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 3 Martial King. Walala! Under the 2 Martial King experts' gazes of disbelief, Wang Kai slowly stood up. The king bestowing lock that they were so proud of fell to the ground like scrap metal. I only need to brag 3 times to break through to rank 1. Who is Ben Shao afraid of now? I don't care who they are. Wang Kai's face was full of smiles. He clenched his hands into fists and stretched his arms. As he moved his muscles and bones, a series of crackling sounds could be heard. Bastard! How dare you break the king bestowing lock? Although His Highness Great Pring King said that he wouldn't kill you, teaching you a lesson is still a piece of cake. Whoosh! Whoosh! The 2 Martial Kings came back to their senses and immediately stood up, glaring angrily at Wang Kai. Without any explanation, they took a step forward and turned their palms into claws. Cyan battle chi gathered on their claws as they fiercely grabbed at Wang Kai. 8 inner hidden gates. Open all 8 gates. 1. Wang Kai's pupils were covered by the color of blood. His body was surrounded by blood-red and black streams of air. He stood where he was without moving. He lightly raised his hands and waved them left and right. With 2 popping sounds, the 2 Martial King experts' arms were smashed to pieces. A rank 3 Martial King with the 8 inner hidden gates opened was enough to fight against a rank 9 Martial King. He was even undefeatable within the rank 9 Martial King realm. Ho ho, have you heard of an old saying? A scholar must be looked at with new eyes. Ben Shao is different. Relatively speaking, he's a bit more awesome. In just 100 breaths, he's already at the peak of countless experts. Even if a golden immortal comes here, he will have to kneel on the ground and respectfully call me Lord Kai is immortal," Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile with his hands behind his back. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Thank you to the reader, reluctant to part with free and easy, for your generous rewards. Thank you to the fellow cultivators who supported this book. Every vote of yours is important." Chapter 105. Bang! The door to the palace suddenly opened and the 8 martial kings rushed in. When they saw the scene in front of them, they were stunned. "You're the one who injured the 2 of them?" The leader of the martial kings frowned and coldly asked. He looked at Wang Kai with a bewildered gaze. No matter what, they could not believe that Wang Kai, a person who had just broken through to inferior rank martial king, would only possess the strength of a rank 7 martial king even though he had activated his bloodline's power and ignited his bloodline and soul. The 2 people who stayed behind were both rank 9 martial kings. However, at this moment, Wang Kai was standing where he was without the slightest injury. Yet, the 2 rank 9 martial kings, who should not have been injured, were seriously injured. Their auras were extremely unstable. Especially their shattered arms, they appeared extremely dazzling. "Ho-ho, other than Ben Shao, is there anyone else here? Actually, there's no need for you to be so surprised. Ben Shao already had the ability to beat up the great Pring King. Now that he's been captured, it's only because Ben Shao wants to see what you're planning." Wang Kai indifferently smiled. With his hands behind his back, he looked extremely carefree. "Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points." Whoosh! Once those words were spoken, the 10 martial kings were all startled. As matters stood, they no longer had any reason to not believe his words. The injuries of 2 rank 9 martial kings were right before their eyes. They had no choice but to believe him. "Everyone, attack with all your strength. Remember, do not hold back. Even if you have to cripple him, do not hesitate. If he escapes, I'm afraid that we will also be executed by the great Pring King," the leader of the martial kings coldly said. Immediately, battle aura covered his body. With a movement, he took the initiative to attack Wang Kai. Universal Law, Demon Transformation Palm. Universal Law, Blood-Devouring Demonic Dragon. Universal Law, Underworld Ocean Bone Ship. Universal Law, Buddha's Fury Golden Lotus. Universal Law. The 8 martial kings attacked with all their might. Many oddly shaped Dharma idols that contained terrifying pressure instantly formed and floated above their head. Leading the way was a huge black palm print, followed closely by a demonic dragon covered in blood-red scales, a giant white bone ship floating on the sea filled with death energy, and a giant Buddha sitting cross-legged on a golden lotus flower, glaring angrily at the group. A total of 8 rank 9 martial kings' natural Dharma idols swept toward Wang Kai. Rumble! Rumble! The terrifying momentum and the attacks of the numerous celestial phenomenon bodies caused the palace to collapse with a loud rumble. Cosmic form of heaven and earth descend. 1. Wang Kai's expression was extremely indifferent. With a tap of his feet, his body immediately turned into a streamer and flew up into the sky. Above his head, a cosmic form that looked exactly the same as his original body was suspended. Whoosh! Swish swish! The 8 martial king experts, as well as the 2 martial kings whose arms had exploded, all flew up into the air and formed a circle around Wang Kai, completely trapping him. The huge black palm print flipped in the sky. The body of the demonic dragon covered in blood-red scales was several thousand meters long. As it moved, it blocked off the surrounding area. The giant Buddha with the golden lotus sat cross-legged with a glaring gaze. It twirled the Buddhist beads in its hand and opened its mouth to spit out golden swastikas. Following that, waves of death energy from the underworld filled the surroundings. Wang Kai looked at the universal law idols and was momentarily stunned. In his memory, he had never seen such a scene, nor had he ever heard of it. He immediately raised his head and laughed loudly, as expected of experts from outside the Fan province. Ben Shao has truly broadened my horizons. A mere commoner from the Fan province, with your background and age, to be able to force us to use our universal law idols, you should be proud. The leading martial king stepped onto the huge black demonic palm and looked down at Wang Kai with a cold expression. Hearing this, Wang Kai's eyes narrowed. Suddenly, he took out the netherworld sword and held it tightly in his hand. He swung it in the air and pointed it diagonally. With an arrogant expression, he laughed loudly and said, Ben Shao's talent is the best in the world. Since you all think that the Fan province's martial cultivators are only SOSO, then today, Ben Shao will cut off your confidence and trample on your self-esteem. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 4 Martial King. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai's expression became even more confident. He immediately waved his arm and stabbed out with his sword. One origin sword, one sword to the underworld. Whoosh! A beam of cyan sword light condensed from battle chi shot out, heading straight for the Martial King expert in the lead. Floating high in the sky, the original body Celestial Laksana suddenly clenched his hand, and a huge green long sword instantly appeared in his hand. Just like Wang Kai's action, he slashed at the huge black demonic palm print. You overestimate yourself. Demonic palm, demonic cover all lives. The leading Martial King snorted disdainfully. His body suddenly swooped down. Black demonic energy gathered on his 2 palms, and the terrifying demonic energy filled the sky. Demonic dragon break. Golden Buddha crossing disaster. Dark sea cover sky. In an instant, the Martial Kings attacked together. Their universal law idols and universal law idols attacked Wang Kai from all directions. Crack! Rumble! The leader of the Martial Kings stopped abruptly. Before he could get close to Wang Kai, his body had already been shattered by the green sword radiance. At the same time, the huge black demonic palm print was also destroyed by Wang Kai's heaven and earth dharma power. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing a rank 9 Martial King. You have received 5,000 experience points. Dragon subduing 10 slaps. Bang! Bang bang! Wang Kai's feet were still in the air. He did not make any attempt to dodge. Instead, he threw the netherworld sword into the air. Then, he waved his hands in the air. Cyan palm prints flew out and collided with the several Martial King experts who were attacking him in the air. Bang! Rumble! Ao ao! Crack! A series of noises rang out incessantly. The 9 Martial King experts were immediately sent flying by the palm print while vomiting blood. Their bodies also exploded into a rain of blood and bone fragments that rained down from the sky. Wang Kai's true body Dharma idol waved its palms repeatedly, and in the blink of an eye, the Dharma idols of heaven and earth turned into colorful airflows and dissipated between heaven and earth. Pata! The netherworld sword fell from the sky. Wang Kai raised his hand and gently grasped it. He flicked his finger and smiled indifferently. Congratulations to the host for successfully killing 9 rank 9 Martial Kings. You have received 45,000 experience points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 5 Martial King. Wang Kai gripped the netherworld sword in his hand. His white robe was spotless as he stood in the air with one hand behind his back. With an indifferent smile, he said, "A hero should never be asked where they come from. If you think that because this young master was born in Fan State, you think that this young master is inferior to others, isn't that too arrogant? If Ben Shao is willing, He will be the #1 person in the Fan province. In the entire universe, Ben Shao will be the #1 person. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 6 Martial King. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He cleared his throat and softly recited, "A sick tiger stands like a sleeping eagle. Once it spreads its wings, not even a blade of grass will grow." Golden-winged Great Rock King, have you prepared your wings? Thank you to Detective D. Rengia and _ for their generous tips. Thank you all for your recommendation tickets. Tomorrow I'll speed up the update. There will be at least 3 chapters. Please look forward to it. Chapter 106. Wang Kai suddenly raised his eyebrows and looked over with a playful expression. In the distance, dozens of figures were rapidly approaching. The 2 in the lead were Uncle Fu and the Golden-Winged Rock King. Following behind them were the Little Rock King and over 29th grade Martial King experts in black robes. Quickly capture this child, even if you have to severely injure him. The Golden-Winged Rock King roared angrily. His body suddenly turned around, and with a flip of his palm, green battle chi gathered and slapped towards Uncle Fu on the other side of the sky. Whoosh whoosh whoosh. The Little Rock King and over 20 Martial King experts obeyed the order and took the opportunity to increase their speed. Their bodies were like illusions as they rushed towards Wang Kai with all their might. Bang! Pooh! Seeing this, Uncle Fu's expression turned even colder. He did not turn around to block the Golden-Winged Rock King's attack. Instead, he allowed the palm print to land on his back. The powerful battle chi caused his internal organs to churn. He opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. However, Uncle Fu did not slow down in the slightest. Instead, he sped up and overtook the Little Rock King and the others. He stood beside Wang Kai with a somewhat violent aura. "Young master, are you all right? I've come too late," Uncle Fu said with a pale face. Standing in front of Wang Kai, he was like an immovable city wall, appearing extremely unyielding and inviolable. Wang Kai's eyes reddened when he heard this. He felt his nose tingle. Uncle Fu was willing to take a palm strike from the Golden-Winged Rock King to protect him. How could such deep friendship be described with words? Immediately, he bowed respectfully and said, "Uncle Fu, your grandson is fine." In his memory, Uncle Fu had come to Fan Province over 20 years ago and had been staying in the Marshal's mansion as a housekeeper. Wang Kai had been raised by Uncle Fu since he was born. In Wang Kai's heart, Uncle Fu had always been like a grandfather. Together with the old man, they had carefully taken care of him. As a result, he did not think too much about his parent. Now that Uncle Fu had called him his grandson, it was reasonable. Uncle Fu was stunned when he heard this. A gratified look appeared in his aged eyes. He nodded slightly and turned to look at the Golden Rock King and the others. "Golden-winged Great Rock King, since you dare to attack my young master, I will kill all of you today even if I have to risk my life. Leave no one alive." Uncle Fu's eyes were as cold as a knife. His battle chi was extremely powerful. In an instant, dark clouds covered the sky and lightning struck. Waves of terrifying pressure swept over and spread out. Immediately, the Martial King experts were forced to vomit blood and be sent flying. If not for Uncle Fu's cultivation being suppressed, all the Martial Kings present would have been reduced to ashes in an instant. "Ford, now that you are seriously injured, you are no longer qualified to confront this king. If you are willing to leave Fanzhou, this king will no longer harm Wang Kai or anyone from the Marshal's mansion," the Golden-Winged Rock King said coldly. Even though he said this, his expression was extremely guarded. Even if Ford was seriously injured, if he went crazy, even if he could win in the end, it would be a Pyrrhic victory. Unless it was absolutely necessary, the golden-winged rock king really did not want to fight with Ford. Whoosh! Just as Uncle Fu was about to attack, Wang Kai's figure flashed and appeared in front of him. With a cold expression, he narrowed his eyes and sneered. Golden-winged great rock king, you think that no one in Fanzhou can fight with you except Uncle Fu, right? Seeing this, Uncle Fu frowned slightly and stared deeply at Wang Kai. Naturally, he knew that Wang Kai's actions meant that he was going to fight with the golden-winged great rock king. However, when he wanted to stop him, he saw that Wang Kai's expression was firm. After hesitating for a while, he chose to stand silently behind him. Humph, that was before. Now, it seems that in Fanzhou, no one except Emperor Fan can fight with this king. Quickly capture Wang Kai. I will deal with Ford. The golden-winged great rock king snorted arrogantly. Whoosh! Whoosh! More than 20 martial king experts stepped into the air with pale faces. Without any hesitation, they immediately activated their battle chi and dharma forms of heaven and earth appeared above their head. Once again, they attacked Wang Kai with a mighty aura. Merely 20 or so people. Ha ha, Kai'er, leave this martial king to me. Buzz. Suddenly, Wang Kai's words were interrupted. In the distance, several figures flashed and appeared. The leader was Elder Lingshu. Beside her was Lu Baiyu, the tower master of the White Jade House, Lu Yao and Li Lingxian. Behind them, Granny Nine Dragons followed with an ashen face. Her footsteps were a little shaky, and her face looked even older than before. Master Lingshu, you have. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and looked at Elder Lingshu with a playful expression. On her shoulder there was a huge black snake, and its aura was very familiar to him. Elder Lingshu nodded and immediately appeared in front of Wang Kai. She put her hands behind her back and looked at the black snake on her shoulder. She smiled faintly and said, Lingdan, kill all the martial kings. Hiss. Hiss, the large black snake's green eyes were clearly filled with displeasure and anger, but in the end it obeyed the order and rolled away. Its body, which was originally 12 meters long, suddenly grew to nearly 1,000 meters long. What a monster! How dare you act rashly in front of us martial kings? More than 20 martial king realm experts were enraged. First, they had been seriously injured by Ford's pressure, causing them to lose the chance to capture Wang Kai. Now there was a resistance. They immediately attacked the giant black snake with their Dharma form. Insignificant martial kings who overestimate their abilities. 20 years ago, I had already sensed your existence. At that time, you were only insignificant martial ancestor-level brat. It's been 20 years since you've infiltrated the Fan province and now, you've only just reached the martial king level. Your talents are really stupid. The black snake snorted disdainfully and immediately swung its tail down. Bang! Rumble! With a deafening explosion, the heaven and earth dharma appearances of the martial king experts were destroyed by the tail of the black snake. Even their original bodies were slapped down from the sky. When they landed on the ground, their bodies exploded and turned into pools of blood. It was really Elder Lingdan's transformation. Wang Kai could not help but grin. He looked at the black snake with a mocking expression. He touched his nose and laughed strangely. Master Lingshu, it seems that big idiot, Ahem, Senior Cat has made Lingdan sign a bloodline contract with you. Yes, I wanted to kill him on the spot, but I was soft-hearted. On account of the fact that Lingdan and I have been in the same sect for almost 100 years, I pleaded for mercy and let Lingdan live. He will be the guardian beast of the Shenwu Academy in the future. Elder Ling Shu said stiffly. Hearing this, Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. He immediately communicated with Cat Lord and sneered. You want Master Ling Shu to lie to Ben Shao, but you chose the wrong person. This lie is not very good. Bastard! Bastard Ling Shu! Cat Lord immediately scolded him with a voice transmission. On Monday, I shamelessly asked for a recommendation vote. If you think this book is okay, please vote for it. There will be another chapter later. Thank you to my friend, arrogant and honorable, for your generous reward. Thank you to my friends who voted for me. Chapter 107. Wang Kai glanced at the small golden tower floating above Ling Shu's head with disdain. He then turned to Lu Yao and the others and asked softly, "Where is the old man? Why didn't he come back with you?" Marshal Wang has led the army into the Tianwu dynasty. Looking at the current situation of the Tianwu dynasty, it will only take a few days for them to be destroyed, Lu Yao said coldly. Wang Kai nodded and looked at Grandma Nine Dragons at the back. Her face was pale and she must have lost. However, with her strength, even if she lost, there was no chance of her death. Thinking of this, Wang Kai couldn't help but exhale softly. It seemed that although the outsider's realm was suppressed, his physical body was absolutely terrifying. Wanting to kill him would be as difficult as ascending to the heavens. Wait. You can't, with his hands behind his back, Wang Kai calmly floated towards the golden-winged Rock King. Seeing this, Lu Yao and the others' expressions changed. However, just as they wanted to stop Wang Kai, Uncle Fu moved to stop them. You think you are awesome, don't you? Wang Kai arrived in front of the golden-winged Great Rock King, standing less than a meter away from him. The Golden Rock King narrowed his eyes and looked coldly at Wang Kai. He said with disdain, "In the end, you are still an ordinary person in Fan Province. How dare you willingly walk into a trap? You really don't know your own death." Bang! However, Wang Kai suddenly swung his arm. Cyan Battle Chi gathered in his fist and smashed the golden-winged Rock King's face, knocking it down from the sky. Crack! The great golden-winged Rock King immediately smashed into the ground, causing it to cave in. Spider-shaped cracks appeared all over the ground. Hiss! Such a scene caused everyone to suck in a deep breath of cold air. Their faces were filled with disbelief. They had never imagined that the golden-winged Great Rock King, who was on par with Uncle Fu, would be hit by Wang Kai's punch without being able to block it at all. Looks like he has made a breakthrough in his cultivation level. Lu Baiyu smiled and looked at Wang Kai with a complicated expression. When Fu Bo heard this, he coldly glanced at him and snorted without saying anything. However, when Lu Baiyu saw this, she laughed dryly. "Ha ha ha, this heartless man has actually become so powerful." Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes sparkled. She covered her face with her hands and laughed softly. She looked at Wang Kai with sparkling eyes. However, at that moment, Lu Yao's expression was ice-cold to the extreme. There was even a trace of anger and unwillingness in her eyes. She had originally surpassed Wang Kai in terms of cultivation, but now, he had actually overtaken her so quickly. This made her, who had always been proud and arrogant, feel somewhat unwilling. "Yao, you have stayed in Fan Province for too long. If you continue like this, you will be stuck at the Martial King level for the rest of your life. Follow me back to Wu Province. There, you will be reborn like a phoenix." Grandma Nine Dragons transmitted her voice to Lu Yao. Lu Yao frowned slightly when she heard this. She didn't reply with a sound transmission. She stared at Wang Kai and suddenly smiled. However, no one noticed this smile, so no one knew what she was happy about. Swoosh! "Wang Kai, this king will definitely kill you." The golden-winged Rock King flew into the sky in anger. Although the punch did not leave him with any injuries, it severely humiliated him. As an emperor of the golden-winged Rock clan, it was intolerable for him to be humiliated like this in Fan Province. Ben Shao has heard these words countless times, but no one has succeeded. That's not right. You are only a beast in disguise and not a human. However, there isn't much of a difference. Just based on your insignificant cultivation, this young master only needs to shake his tiger body, and you'll be scared witless. Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ha ha ha, heartless man is so interesting. Li Lingxian could not help but laugh. She covered her face and her delicate body trembled as she laughed. Whoosh! The golden-winged Rock King's cold gaze suddenly turned to stare at Li Lingxian, causing her to stop breathing. Her beautiful face stiffened as she snorted. Why are you looking at Lingxian? Could it be that she was really frightened by that heartless man? Is that why you want to regain some face from me? Bastard! Bastard! All of you deserve to die. The golden-winged Rock King roared angrily. He had reached the Emperor realm for thousands of years and had never been humiliated like this. And the source of all this was a little brat in Fan Province. Position swap. Bang! Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he had already punched out again, causing the golden-winged Rock King to fall from the sky again. You think you can be so unscrupulous just because you are an emperor? Don't forget that the Fan Province that you keep saying is a hell that can make you lose all your dignity. Yes, Ben Shao is the king of hell, who specializes in taking the lives of pretentious people like you. You just stand there and shout, but you don't attack. Do you think Ben Shao is a kind person who won't take the opportunity to beat you up? Wang Kai sneered with disdain. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Buzz. Rumble. Rumble. Suddenly, all the palaces in the palace trembled. Dark clouds covered the sky, and lightning flashed. A powerful and terrifying pressure swept out in all directions. The golden-winged Rock King stood up with a cold expression. The veins on his forehead bulged. He didn't say much, but fell into a silent rage. Pretentious! Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. His figure flashed and disappeared as he dove down from the sky. With the frequent use of position swap, he arrived in front of the golden-winged Rock King in the blink of an eye. He waved his arm and smashed it again. Golden feather 3 changes. Bang! Bang bang! A shield burning with golden flames condensed and appeared in front of the golden-winged Rock King, negating all of Wang Kai's attacks. You have really surprised me. You have reached such a high level of martial arts at such a young age. However, even if you have reached the same level as me, your physical body is a gap that you will never be able to overcome. The golden-winged Rock King said coldly. Crack! Bang! Under Wang Kai's disdainful punches, the golden flame shield was broken into pieces at once. However, Wang Kai's fist, which was covered with powerful cyan battle chi, directly hit the golden-winged Rock King's chest. Thud thud thud! The golden-winged Rock King was knocked back a few steps. However, he wasn't injured at all. Even his aura was still powerful and he was at his peak. He wasn't injured at all. Chapter 108. Is it really useless? Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. He took a few steps back and stared at the golden-winged Rock King with a serious expression. Even though he had expected that there would be a gap in the level of their physical bodies, he was still shocked after the real test. As a 6th-grade martial king with a 5th-grade bloodline power, he was definitely invincible among the martial kings, even though he could not surpass the gap of an entire realm and be comparable to an emperor realm expert. Even though the intensity of his battle chi was not inferior to that of the golden-winged Rock King, the difference in the level of his physical body was like heaven and earth. Only warriors with the emperor physique can hurt me. However, Ford is already seriously injured. Lu Baiyu and Grandma Nine Dragons are no match for me after the battle. Even if you all join forces, you are no match for me. The golden-winged Rock King snorted coldly and flew up into the sky. Cosmic form, Eye of the Rock. 3 changes of golden feathers. Buzz. A huge eye of a demonic beast appeared above the golden-winged Rock King's head. Then, the golden-winged Rock King transformed into a demonic beast. His feathers were burning with golden flames, and the 2 flaming spears formed by his wings were floating in the sky. The temperature of the space suddenly rose sharply. Like the sun, it was extremely dazzling and scorching. Ford, I will only ask you one last time. Are you leaving Fan Province or not? The golden-winged great rock opened its mouth slightly. As it spoke, it threw one of the spears at Wang Kai. Swoosh. Position swap. Wang Kai frowned when he saw this. His figure immediately flashed, only to see the long spear burning with golden flames chasing after him like a maggot. Wherever it passed, even the ground was burned to ashes. Its power was evident. Since the young master has not said anything about leaving, I will not leave, Ford said coldly. Then don't blame me for being ruthless. The golden-winged rock king snorted coldly. The eye of the rock blinked and a golden light pierced through the eye and hit the flaming spear. Then, something strange happened. Swoosh, swoosh, swoosh. The flaming spear stopped its pursuit and turned into countless golden flaming feathers, surrounding Wang Kai from all directions. Battle Chi protection. Rumble! Rumble! In an instant, Wang Kai was engulfed by the fire feathers. The place where he was standing was filled with flames like a cage of fire. There were no blind spots to speak of. Master, will he be all right? Li Lingxian asked with a frown. Lu Baiyu shook her head and smiled. His battle chi is at the same level as the great rock king, so he can't be hurt for the time being. But if the battle drags on, his battle chi will be exhausted and he won't be able to defend himself with battle chi, then the result will be unpredictable. Whoosh! As soon as these words were spoken, Lu Yao's expression turned even colder. She took out her long sword and immediately charged towards the golden-winged great rock king. Since young master is willing to fight the golden-winged great rock king alone, you must have the confidence to win. We'll just watch. Uncle Fu's figure disappeared and reappeared, blocking Lu Yao behind him. His hands behind his back were slightly clenched and his eyes were filled with coldness. Lu Yao frowned when she heard this. She tightly gripped her long sword and coldly said in her heart, Wang Kai, you must not die here. If you dare to leave me to face the 3 great families of the Martial Province alone, even if I become a ghost in the future, I won't let you off. Great Rock King, aren't you underestimating Ben Shao too much? Ben Shao had already experienced the mere 3 transformations of the golden feathers when he was in the Tong Tian Tower. Although the Little Rock King's transformations are not as varied as yours, in general, the method is the same. If Ben Shao is willing, he can even extinguish the golden flames by peeing. Wang Kai's indifferent laughter sounded from the cage of fire. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 7 Martial King. Position swap. Whoosh. Wang Kai's figure passed through the cage of fire. He directly turned into an illusion and rushed to the front of the golden-winged Great Rock King. He immediately took out the Netherworld sword and pierced through the air. One origin sword, one sword to the underworld. Whoosh! Clank! Bang! The sound of metal colliding could be heard endlessly. The golden-winged Great Rock King raised his flaming spear to block, but it was still pierced by Wang Kai's sword. The spear turned back into golden wings, and the monstrous beast body was also sent flying. The huge body of the Kuan Ping seemed to cover the sky as it flew backward. Flaming feathers fell down and turned into sparks of fire. Wherever they landed, everything was burned and burned. Your battle chi has increased again. The golden-winged Great Rock King cried out in shock. The fire cage on the ground that was used to trap Wang Kai suddenly turned into a flaming feather and floated back to the left arm of the golden-winged Great Rock King. Together with the flaming spear, it transformed back into the form of a golden wing. As the wings flapped, the figure that was flying backward instantly stopped. He was still unharmed. His battle chi was still vigorous and at its peak. The One Origin sword was the martial skill with the strongest killing power that he had cultivated. However, it was still unable to hurt the golden-winged Great Rock King in the slightest. Just how strong was this so-called emperor body? Wang Kai was speechless. He frowned and scolded with a dark face, "Flying golden-feathered chicken, do your parents know that you're so resistant to beatings?" The corners of everyone's mouths twitched violently when they heard this. Black lines involuntarily appeared on their foreheads. Even Uncle Fu and the cold and indifferent Lu Yao turned their heads away at this moment. They immediately felt somewhat embarrassed. He, heartless man. His parents are the golden-winged demon emperor of the demon continent. If he knows that you've insulted him like this, you'll be hunted down by a flock of golden-feathered chickens when you leave the Fan continent in the future. Li Lingxian laughed until her delicate body trembled. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. He cleared his throat and smiled indifferently. It's just a golden-feathered chicken. It's not bad to have more of them. The few feathers on his body can't even compare to the ones used to knit a sweater. If there are more of them, everyone here will have a share. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Everyone was stunned when they heard this. It was as if they were hallucinating. He wanted to use the golden-winged Great Rock's flaming feathers to knit a sweater? Only this bragging god of the royal city would dare to have such a bold idea. Bastard! Bastard! Bastard to the extreme! Shua! The golden-winged Great Rock King angrily roared again and again. His two flaming wings flapped, creating gusts of wind that were hot enough to burn a river. Hee, golden-winged Great Rock King, Ben Shao is a little tired now. I don't want to continue playing with you. So, you can hand over all your flaming wings. Wang Kai's face turned cold. He suddenly put away the netherworld sword. His feet pushed off the ground and his body was like a meteor as he met the golden-winged Great Rock King in the air. Cleave of all beings. Haha, I'm sorry. Thank you for your support. Rewards are not important. Give me one more vote. Every 100 votes, I'll add one more chapter. Hope for your support. Chapter 109. Swoosh. The golden-winged giant Pring King's speed suddenly increased. In an instant, he turned into a beam of golden light and shot into the distance, causing Wang Kai's attack to miss. He can see through Ben Shao's moves. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he saw this. He stood in the air and looked at the Kuan Ping demon body in the distance in surprise. He had intended to use the cleave of all living things to destroy the golden-winged Rock King's powerful emperor body. However, just as he was about to succeed, the Rock King dodged the attack. Since the battle chi of a martial king could not harm the emperor body, he could only use the cleave of all living things to destroy it. However, Wang Kai's moves were all seen through by the golden-winged Rock King. Humph, your martial skill is indeed extraordinary. Even though I have killed countless strong enemies in my life, I have never seen a martial skill that can cut a person in half and keep the person alive. However, no matter how exquisite the martial skill is, it has a fatal weakness. To me, your martial skill is useless. The golden-winged Rock King snorted coldly. The golden-winged rock was known for its speed. It could see through the opponent's moves and dodge with its absolute advantage in speed. Wang Kai was flustered and exasperated. He felt that the golden-winged Rock King was more difficult to deal with. He had already known how powerful the golden-winged Rock King was during his battle with the Little Rock King. Now, the golden-winged Rock King's moves were many times more exquisite than the Little Rock King's. The Eye of the Kuan Ping is the cosmic form passed down by the golden-winged rock tribe. It can see through the opponent's martial skill. At the Rock King's level, it can predict your next move. Once it realizes that you are about to use the cleave of all living things, it will retreat. If you want to defeat the golden-winged Rock King, you must first cut off its cosmic form eye. Uncle Fu's voice suddenly rang in his ears. Wang Kai was stunned. He raised his head and looked at the huge eye of the Kuan Ping in surprise. Cosmic form body descend. Buzz. The battle chi above Wang Kai's head condensed into a Dharma idol that looked exactly like his real body. Golden feathered chicken, even if your body is strong enough and your speed is fast enough, you are still not qualified to defeat Ben Shao. Wang Kai smiled proudly and suddenly moved his feet to attack the golden-winged giant Rock King. At the same time, the cosmic form also attacked the eye of the Kuan Ping in the sky. Even if you can see through the might of this king's eye of the rock, it's impossible for you to injure me in the slightest with your speed. The golden-winged great Rock King snorted disdainfully. He immediately spread out his 2 golden wings and extended them out. The wings were so wide that they spanned a distance of 30 to 60,000 miles. 3 transformations of the golden feather. Swoosh. Swish swish, in an instant countless golden flaming feathers shot out from the golden wings that stretched for 60,000 miles. In an instant the sky was filled with fiery sparks. There was not a single gap in the area that was covered. There was nowhere to hide. There was nowhere to hide. Bastard! Golden-winged great Rock King, how dare you use such power? Do you want to plunge the land of Fan Province into disaster? Ford snapped when he saw this. His figure flickered, and with a wave of his hands, he blocked the flaming feathers that had spread for 60,000 miles and dissipated them. Lu Baiyu, Elder Lingshu, Lu Yao, and Li Lingxian all took action to block the flaming feathers that were shooting down from the sky. If they did not take action now, this move alone would be enough to destroy any living thing within 60,000 miles. Anything. Golden-winged great Rock King, you are really courting death. Wang Kai's expression suddenly turned cold. Seeing that the cosmic form of heaven and earth was shattered by the countless flaming feathers, he immediately gathered his battle chi again and shouted, Cosmic form of heaven and earth, form of myriad transformations, eye of Kuan Ping. Swoosh. Everyone looked on in disbelief as they saw the same eye of the Kuan Ping above Wang Kai's head. Its aura and ability were exactly the same as the golden-winged great Rock King's. Impossible! How can you also use the Kuan Ping? Are you also from the golden-winged great Rock clan? This is impossible. The golden-winged great Rock King's eyes bulged as he roared crazily. The cosmic form that only the golden-winged great Rock clan could use was actually used by a young boy from the Fan Province. F***CKU. Who is from the same clan as you? How can you say such shameless words? Wang Kai scolded with a dark face. Form displacement transposition. Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. In the blink of an eye, he was in front of the golden-winged great Rock King. He waved his arm and chopped at the back of the golden-winged great Rock King. Cleave of all living beings. Whoosh. Bang. The golden-winged great Rock King's Kuan Ping demonic body was cut into 2 halves. The flaming feathers that filled the sky also disappeared instantly, along with the golden wings that stretched for 60,000 miles. After the golden-winged great Rock King was cut into 2 halves, the eye of the Kuan Ping also slowly dissipated between heaven and earth. This is impossible. The 2 halves of the golden-winged great Rock King's body twitched non-stop. The 2 halves of the golden-winged great Rock King's mouth were wide open in shock. The golden-winged great Rock King could not believe that Wang Kai had not only used the eye of the Kuan Ping, but also the same ability. He had wanted to dodge Wang Kai's attack with his speed, but Wang Kai had predicted his next move in advance. Fu Di, who is Wang Kai's master? How can he know such a profound and exquisite cosmic form? Lu Baiyu's expression was extremely serious as she frowned and asked in a low voice. Hearing this, Uncle Fu slowly regained his senses. He was truly shocked by Wang Kai just now. To be able to conjure the enemy's cosmic form and its abilities What kind of cultivation technique would be able to conjure such a cosmic form? Humph, young master's master is right in front of you. Could it be that the great white emperor of the spiritual state, who has been in the fan state for more than a decade, has lost his eyesight? Uncle Fu snorted coldly. Hearing this, Lu Baiyu narrowed her eyes and looked deeply at Elder Lingshu. After a long while, she shook her head and thought to herself, "Impossible, Wang Kai must have an unfathomable master. Fu Di, it seems that you are also in the dark." When Elder Lingshu saw this, she was startled and immediately put on a mysterious look. No matter what, she could not lose face. Although she had not taught Wang Kai anything, she had to be a role model for him. Golden-feathered chicken, knitting sweaters. Golden-feathered chicken, knitting sweaters. Pada, 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 pada. Suddenly, a tongue-twister-like voice sounded, attracting everyone's attention. When they saw Wang Kai's actions, their eyes bulged and black lines appeared on their foreheads. They saw Wang Kai sitting cross-legged in the void, with half of the golden-winged Rock King's body on his left and right. His two hands danced together, pulling up after pulling up. ******************************************************************************************************************e. If I don't kill you in this life, I will, However, no matter how angry the golden-winged Rock King was, Wang Kai's indifferent movements turned into silent anger and humiliation. With over 100 recommendation votes, I will update. With another 100, I will continue to update. Thank you all for your support. Chapter 110. Within 100 breaths, under Wang Kai's rapid actions, the golden-winged Rock King's flaming feathers were completely plucked clean. The huge demon body was completely bare, with small red dots densely packed together. They were the bloodstains at the roots of the flaming feathers. The golden-winged rock is the father, and the Koan Pring is the mother. Although the child of the two races cannot become the leader of either race, the abilities of both races are extremely powerful. Who would have thought that he would fall in the land of Fanzhou? Grandma Nine Dragon's expression was full of sarcasm. Hearing this, the others also sighed. The golden-winged rock was extremely fast and powerful, and the Koan Pring was not inferior to the golden-winged rock. The child of the two races should have been more powerful than the Koan Pring and the golden-winged rock, but now it had become a bald rock. Perhaps only the golden-winged Rock King could understand the grievance and anger. Who has a mirror? Let me borrow it. Wang Kai's expression was rather playful. With a flip of his hand, he stored all the plucked flaming feathers into his spatial ring. Whoosh! Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes were filled with curiosity. She quickly took out a silver mirror and lightly threw it to Wang Kai. She covered her face and laughed coquettishly. He Lingxian has it. Here, take it. Patter. Wang Kai reached out and caught the mirror. Immediately, under the confused gazes of the others, he directly pointed the mirror at the golden-winged Rock King's eyes. He moved it slightly away so that the mirror could reflect his current appearance. TSK, golden-winged Rock King Benshao is the most awesome designer in the world. To be able to have Benshao personally tailor something for you, that is the fortune of several lifetimes. Wang Kai smacked his lips and laughed proudly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. The golden-winged Rock King's eyes were bloodshot. He angrily panted and stared at the mirror. When he saw his appearance reflected in the mirror, he was so angry that he spat out blood. Wang Kai, this king must kill you. The golden-winged Great Rock King gritted his teeth. He was so angry that smoke was coming out of his 7 orifices. In the end, he could not bear such humiliation. His neck tilted and he fainted on the spot. When Wang Kai heard this, he curled his lips in disdain. He shrugged and said disdainfully, "You are the product of a Koan Pring and a golden-winged rock. You don't even have the magnanimity of a king among demons. You are not even comparable to your son, the little Rock King. Everyone rolled their eyes in unison when they saw this, and they immediately bid farewell to each other before leaving directly. It was truly difficult for them to continue staying here. Kai Skysplit Tower is yours. Whoosh! Elder Ling Shu smiled proudly and threw the Tower of Babel to Wang Kai according to Cat Lord's instructions. Many thanks for Master's reward. I will definitely treat him well. Wang Kai grinned playfully. He had always wanted this treasure. Now that it had come to his doorstep, he would be a fool not to take it. Bastard boy, Skysplit Tower has recovered to the level of an Emperor artifact with the help of countless bloodlines. The Fan province can no longer accommodate it. If Emperor Fan takes the initiative to expel it, won't Cat Lord lose face? Cat Lord coldly snorted. When Wang Kai heard this, his eyes narrowed slightly. He smiled curiously and said, "Big stupid cat, Ben Shao thinks that you can't leave Skysplit Tower, right? Moreover, the person who injured you back then was Emperor Fan, right?" Humph, back then, Cat Lord was deceived by the spirit pill and used Emperor Fan's token to meet him. However, Emperor Fan used the excuse of an outsider to seriously injure me. When Cat Lord recovers to his peak, I will definitely return to the Fan province and compete with Emperor Fan. Cat Lord coldly snorted. Emperor Fan did not allow outsiders to meet him? Wang Kai's pupils suddenly shrank. He couldn't help but look at the golden-winged Great Ping King. He smacked his lips and said in a rather mocking tone, "It seems that this young master shouldn't stop him. Let him go see Emperor Fan." If the golden-winged Great Ping King knew that Emperor Fan did not allow outsiders to meet him, what would he think? He would probably secretly rejoice, right? If he really followed his plan to the end, he was afraid that he would end up being beaten up by Emperor Fan. Meet Emperor Fan? Do you think Cat Lord is so weak? If the golden-winged Great Ping King dares to meet Emperor Fan, his ending will not be as simple as being seriously injured. Cat Lord can escape at the cost of being seriously injured. That is Cat Lord's ability. Cat Lord said disdainfully. Wang Kai's face was full of curiosity. Currently, there should only be 2 Emperor Fan tokens left. The 2 Emperor Fan tokens of the Tianwu dynasty had already been used by 2 generations of Wang Shang. As for the 2 Emperor Fan tokens of the Tianwu dynasty, only one Wang Shang had used them. The remaining one should be the one used by Cat Lord. It was in the possession of Shenwu Academy, and Elder Ling Dan had used it to frame Cat Lord. The last 2 Emperor Fan tokens were in the Tianwu dynasty. Lu Baiyu had one and Crown Prince Wan Kong knew the whereabouts of the last one. Since Emperor Fan does not allow outsiders to meet him using the Emperor Fan token, then, I wonder if Ben Shao can do it? With Ben Shao's unparalleled talent, it should be easy for him to obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance, right? Wang Kai said with a proud smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 8 Martial King. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai became even more spirited. He suddenly slapped the 2 halves of the golden-winged Great Rock King down from the sky. He stood up and said with a light smile, Ben Shao is determined to obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance. Little Rock King, seeing that you were not bad back then, Ben Shao will spare your life and your father's life. Leave the Fan province immediately. If there is a next time, Ben Shao will not show mercy. Whoosh! Below, the little Rock King soared into the sky with a complicated expression. He caught the 2 halves of the golden-winged Great Rock King and said in a low voice, Wang Kai, you will regret this. I am different from my father. He only has the bloodline of the Kuanping and golden-winged Great Rock. But I have the bloodline of a human. Wang Kai snorted with disdain. With his hands behind his back, he said with a faint smile, Why are you still standing there? Do you want to wait for Ben Shao to change his mind? not to mention the Kuanping and golden-winged great roc. Even if the phoenix divine dragon came, I would still torture the male. As for the female, I will take her as my personal maid. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. I hope you will not regret letting me go today. I owe you this favor and I will repay it in the future. Prince Wankong is in the palace's dungeon. Farewell. The little Rock King said in a deep voice. Then, he grabbed the two halves of the golden-winged great Rock King's body and disappeared into the horizon. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. Just as he was about to look for the palace's dungeon, he lowered his head and discovered that the entire palace had been turned into ruins. Even if the dungeon was still intact, it would be difficult for Wankong to survive. Chapter 111. Night fell and the moon hung high in the sky. The stars shone brightly in the dark night. Outside the royal city, bonfires burned. After 10 days of attacking, the 200,000 royal generals and the remaining troops of the Xinwu dynasty had finally subdued the Tianwu dynasty and made it part of the Xinwu dynasty's territory, unifying the Fan province. Presently, the soldiers of the army were drinking and chatting merrily outside the city. Bonfires were lit all over the city, causing the originally spacious and desolate boundless desert to seem rather bustling. On the city wall, Wang Kai held a cup of strong wine as he leaned against the wall and looked up at the moon. His expression was filled with anticipation and excitement. The Fan province had been unified, and there was no one in the territory who could compete with the marshal's residence. This way, he could leave the Fan province and travel outside the Fan province. Heartless man, you are now the divine marshal. You should be the invincible young marshal that everyone in Fan province praises. Your name has spread throughout the land, and even your deeds have been written into poems for the people of the world to sing. Li Lingxian covered her face and laughed coquettishly. Her charming figure swayed as she walked over. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. He looked at her curiously and asked, "What poem is it? Quickly recite it." Li Lingxian's beautiful eyes fluttered as she chuckled and recited, "A single blow from the royal city annihilates an army of 10,000 with a flick of a finger, pacifies the Tianwu dynasty, and overturns a group of kings with one hand." Clap, clap, clap. As soon as he finished speaking, Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands and nodded with a smile full of appreciation. "Good poem, really good poem. I wonder which scholar wrote it? We should recruit him into the royal city and make him a king. Our royal city's blow god, boasting that he is skilled in both the pen and the sword. Is there a time when he has to admit defeat?" Li Lingxian laughed. Her beautiful body was graceful and looked very charming under the moonlight. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes and looked her up and down. He couldn't help but laugh. "Miss Lingxian, we didn't get to enjoy ourselves last time at the White Jade restaurant. Why don't we have another round of food and wine today?" "Sure, but Lingxian doesn't have a high tolerance for alcohol, so I'm afraid I'll pass out. How about young Master Kai recite a song for me first?" Li Lingxian covered her face and tried to stifle her laughter. Her words immediately caused Wang Kai's face to darken. Last time, it was because he had been drunk by this little girl that he had mistakenly thought that he had lost his virginity to her. However, now that he was already a martial king, a mere alcohol tolerance was nothing to him. Since Miss Lingxian is in the mood, then Benchao will recite a poem with the night as the theme. Wang Kai snorted coldly. He raised his head and drank the wine. After that, he placed his hands behind his back and swept his gaze around. He shook his head as if he was preparing something. Li Lingxian immediately focused her attention on Wang Kai. Her beautiful eyes were full of anticipation. "Last night's stars and last night's wind, the west side of the Jade Tower is in the east of the Marshal's Hall. I don't have the wings of a colorful phoenix, but our hearts are as one," Wang Kai recited with an indifferent expression. With one hand behind his back and the other in front of his chest, his white robe fluttered in the wind. His handsome face caused Li Lingxian, who was watching from the side, to be momentarily dazed. If the poem he recited at the White Jade Tower was fake, then it definitely couldn't be fake now. The Jade Tower was referring to the White Jade Tower. Coincidentally, this place was west of the White Jade Tower, and the east of the Marshal's Hall was east of the Marshal's residence. If he's serious, he's not bad. He actually said that our hearts are. Pay. Li Lingxian came back to her senses and stuck out her tongue. She snorted with embarrassment and anger. Bastard! Who would have a heart with you? Haha, little girl Lingxian, last time you caused Ben Shao to miss out on the meat. Instead, you got a body full of meat. This time, you can't escape. Wang Kai smiled rather mockingly. He immediately stretched out his hands to grab Li Lingxian. Whoosh! However, Li Lingxian's figure flashed and she easily dodged. A purple veil wrapped around her shoulders and purple flower petals adorned the space between her eyebrows. The moonlight shone on her beautiful face, making her already charming temperament even more enchanting. Wang Kai, if you can get into the youth sovereign ranking, I don't mind giving myself to you. However, with your martial realm, you're still far from it. Ha! Li Lingxian casually gave him a perfunctory smile. Her figure immediately floated up and slowly disappeared into the night. Seeing this, Wang Kai's face darkened. He snorted with an indignant expression. I didn't expect that little girl to be one of the outsiders. However, her cultivation is truly too fast. In just a few days, she's already a rank 7 martial king. 6 ranks in a row. Coupled with the power of her bloodline, if I don't use my full strength, I won't be able to catch her. However, what did she mean by the youth sovereign ranking? She actually said that even Ben Shao's martial realm is far from it? She's underestimating Ben Shao too much. It's just a youth sovereign ranking. If Ben Shao wants to, he can take first place at any time. Wang Kai said with a proud smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Black lines appeared on Wang Kai's forehead when he heard the notification. Could it be that the Sovereign Youth Leaderboard was really that powerful? Young Marshal, the old man wants you to return to the residence. Suddenly, a guard from the Marshal's residence walked over and bowed respectfully with his fists clasped. In the Marshal's residence's main hall, the old man, Wang Xian, sat at the head of the table. To his left was the White Jade House's master, Lu Baiyu, and to his right was Uncle Fu. Below them were Old State Preceptor Lu and Prime Minister Yuan. I wonder why the old master has summoned your grandson back. Is there anything important? Wang Kai's eyes flickered slightly. He couldn't help but glance at Prime Minister Yuan. Seeing him looking at him with a flattering smile, he suddenly realized something. You've taken all the silver in the national treasury, right? The old man snorted with a serious face. Wang Kai's heart skipped a beat. He felt a chill run down his spine. He quickly shook his head and denied, I don't know. Then, has Prince Wankong been secretly imprisoned by you? The old man asked again. Yes, Wankong is now in the dungeon of the Marshal's residence. Wang Kai nodded slightly and didn't evade the question. The old man and the others looked at each other and smiled inexplicably. Finally, Lu Baiyu said with a smile, Then, have you obtained Emperor Fan's token? Not yet. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows and snorted with a displeased expression. It's fine if the old man is questioning me like this, but you're just a brothel keeper. Why are you acting all high and mighty here? Prince Wankong can't die. He still needs to become the Wang Shang of the Divine Martial Dynasty. If he's executed, who will take the position of Wang Shang? Do you want to be in charge of Fan Province? The old man asked with a frown. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain and smiled faintly. Whoever wants to take the position of Wang Shang can take it. I'm not talented and I don't care about the country. I only care about beauties. Then hand over all the silver in the national treasury. This amount of silver can be used to reward the soldiers and build the palace. The old man snorted coldly. Chapter 112. Wang Kai's face stiffened when he heard this. He straightened his back and said with a serious expression, "Old master, if no one can take over the position of Wang Shang, grandson can accept it and wait for a talented person to appear before giving up the throne." He loved money as much as his life. When he was bragging in King City, he would only take money from his own pocket. How could he let the duck in his hand fly away? In order to find Prince Wankong, Wang Kai had turned the palace upside down. Fortunately, Prince Wankong was still somewhat capable and was not buried alive in the ruins. It was also because Prince Wankong revealed the whereabouts of the last Emperor Fan's token that Wang Kai once again turned the treasury upside down and took away Emperor Fan's token. He also took away the 5 space rings that stored all the money. In Wang Kai's words, he was going to leave Fan Zhou soon. How could he be happy when he was going to leave without any money? Old Master and the others looked at each other speechlessly. They knew that the money was in Wang Kai's hands, but he did not want to hand it over. What should they do? Bang! Kai, if you want to become the king of divine martial dynasty, you must cultivate your body and mind. You must not brag and act rashly. You must not be free. You must take the world as your responsibility and become a wise ruler. If you cannot do that, then hand over the money. Grandfather Lu can make the decision and leave you one of the 5 space rings. Old Imperial Tutor Lu slapped the table and decided. As expected of the Imperial Tutor of Divine Martial Dynasty, the military advisor of the army. He even knew how many space rings there were. Wang Kai suddenly had a feeling of speechlessness. Seeing that they were all looking at him, he really couldn't bear the pressure. Helpless, he could only take out 3 space rings and said with great reluctance, "Just 3, no more. I still have to live outside of Fan Province." Hand it over quickly. With your ability, isn't it easy for you to make a living? I think you want to gamble outside and visit that brothel, right? The old man scolded as if he expected better from him. Ever since Wang Kai established himself, the places where he spent the most money were the red light district, as well as bragging and gambling. Everyone present knew Wang Kai very well. As the only son of the famous marshal's residence in the royal city, it was difficult for him not to be known. Wang Kai's face immediately darkened when he heard this. He was unwilling to hand over another one no matter what, but he couldn't resist the old man and the others' coercion. Feeling indignant, he could only flip his hand and throw out 4 spatial crystals. Then, he turned around and quickly left. He waved his hand and said, "The old man is right. With Bencheo's ability, he'll be the most dazzling star wherever he goes." Even those Emperor Realm experts will have to bow down to him. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 9 Martial King. Host, if you want to break through to Martial King, you need to practice the Emperor Realm Martial Technique, Unbreakable Divine Emperor Technique. Hearing the notification, Wang Kai was stunned. He quickly stepped into the air and rushed towards the southern mountain range. Host, Wang Kai Profession, Martial Artist Realm, Rank 9 Martial King Martial Technique, Immemorial Divine King Technique Martial Technique, 8 Inner Hidden Gates, Transposition, Omniscient Slice, Tremor Fist, 1 Origin Sword, Origin Bullet Equipment, Netherworld Sword Bloodline, Rank 5 Bragging Points, 169 Experience, 500050000 inch. It actually gave me a total of 20,000 experience points. Doesn't that mean that Ben Shao has to brag 5 times before he can break through to the next rank? Wang Kai stepped into the air and closed it with a thought. Soon after, he opened the system's skill list. Surprisingly, there was the Unbreakable Divine Emperor skill that the system had mentioned before. The bragging points required. It actually costs 150 points. Wang Kai's eyes bulged. He was speechless. The higher one's strength, the greater the consumption. However, with the bragging points he had now, it was more than enough for him to obtain the Unbreakable Divine Emperor technique. Cultivate the Unbreakable Divine Emperor technique. Congratulations to the host for successfully cultivating the Unbreakable Divine Emperor technique. 150 bragging points consumed. Brat, are you planning to leave Fan Province just like that? Whoosh! The golden Tong Tian Tower was only the size of a thumb. It floated in the air and hung on Wang Kai's ear like an earring. Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders nonchalantly. Now that Fan Province was unified and Shen Wu Academy was destroyed, there were not many disciples left from the 5 aristocratic families. However, the ordinary disciples were still intact. With Master Ling Shu's character, she would definitely nurture the ordinary disciples in the future. 3 of the 4 great aristocratic families in Royal City were gone. The Su family, and the Li family. The survivors were all under the watch of Wang Shuai's army. They could be killed or not. Fatty Lu's Lu family had become the only aristocratic family in Royal City. What was about to happen was only the ascension of a new king. Based on the situation of the old man and the others, even if Prince Wankong ascended to the throne, he would only be a puppet. If he had already decided to leave Fan Province, then he could skip the farewell scene. Wang Kai hated parting the most. Sigh, Ben Shao only regrets not being able to find Yuan Hao and Ben Shao. If I don't kill them, Ben Shao will feel terrible. Wang Kai frowned and sighed unhappily. Yuan Hao and Wan Zhe are weak martial ancestors. Where can they escape to? Brat, don't you want to meet Emperor Fan? When the time comes, just ask him. Emperor Fan is the ruler of Fan Province. He knows everything. Cat Lord sneered. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard this. With a playful smile, he said, Big stupid cat, how come your courage has suddenly grown so much? You dare to ask to meet Emperor Fan? Bastard! Since when was Cat Lord afraid of Emperor Fan? If it wasn't for the fact that Lord Cat's strength has not fully recovered, even if there were 10 or 100 Emperor Fans, they wouldn't dare to act rashly against Lord Cat. Lord Cat's exasperated voice came from the heaven-reaching tower. It could be seen that he was very angry. Ding dang! Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain. He raised his arm and flicked the Tong Tian Tower. A bell-like sound came out and he laughed mockingly. Big stupid cat, don't brag so much in front of Ben Shao in the future. Whatever you brag about, Ben Shao doesn't care about Ben Shao at all. A mere 10 or 100 Emperor Fans would not dare to offend you. Even if there were hundreds of millions of Emperor Fans, Ben Shao would only need to walk past them to kill them all. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Bastard brat. Bastard brat. Cat Lord is so angry. Cat Lord's angry voice was incessant. Inside the 9th floor of the Tong Tian Tower, he was so angry that his body was trembling non-stop. If it wasn't for the fact that the bloodline contract could not be broken, Cat Lord would have chosen anyone to bring the Tong Tian Tower out of here rather than Wang Kai. Cat Lord was speechless. He had originally thought that a mere brat from Fan Province would be able to easily break the bloodline contract even if they had formed one. However, after he had recovered some of his strength, he realized that it was impossible to break the bloodline contract. This made Cat Lord feel extremely sullen and regretful. Chapter 113. The southern mountain range was located in the southernmost part of Fan State. It was the border between Fan State and the outside world. There were thousands of peaks and hundreds of mountains, and demonic beasts were entrenched there. There were so many of them that it had long been listed as a forbidden area in Fan State. Even martial ancestor realm experts did not dare to casually step into it. A dense fog surrounded the border of the southern mountain range. It was impossible to see what was inside, and no one could sense any danger. However, in the fog there was a lone peak. On the peak of the lone peak there was a white tower. It shone with a five-colored brilliance and looked rather dazzling. Wang Kai's figure floated down from the sky. Looking at the fog in front of him, he could not help but frown and say in surprise, "I can't walk in the air here. Is that the white tower where Emperor Fan lives? The surrounding environment is so strange, it's quite pretentious." "Shut up, you bastard. Do you want to die? Lord Cat has not lived long enough." Lord Cat was flustered and exasperated as he scolded. They were truly impressed by Wang Kai's temperament. No matter where he went, he never had the intention to admit defeat. Even if it was Fan Di, the Lord of Fan Province, inside the mist, Wang Kai did not put him in his eyes. "Hee hee, big stupid cat, didn't you just say that you were not afraid of Emperor Fan? Why are you so timid now?" Wang Kai said with a mocking smile. Lord Cat, who was in the heaven-reaching tower, suddenly shuddered. He stroked his long whiskers fiercely and did not dare to respond with an ugly expression. Wang Kai's expression suddenly became serious. He bowed respectfully and cupped his fists. His voice was soft but it traveled far and wide. "Senior Emperor Fan, I am Wang Kai of the Divine Martial Dynasty. I have come with a special token to pay my respects. I hope that Senior can open the celestial gate and let me see Senior's majesty." When these words came out, Lord Cat, who was in the heaven-reaching tower, suddenly widened his eyes and wagged his tail in disbelief. He did not expect Wang Kai to have such a side. However, in the next moment, he looked at him with disdain and said sarcastically, "Didn't you just say that Emperor Fan was pretentious? Why are you so well-behaved?" Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. His expression was indifferent as he transmitted his voice back. "When it's time to act tough, act tough. When it's time to bow your head, be humble and courteous. A genius like Ben Shao is one of a kind in this world. If he was like you, bowing and scraping in front of the strong and holding his head high in front of the weak, completely inflexible, then he deserved to be heavily injured by Fan Di. Big dumb cat, you are still too inexperienced. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points." Bastard! Emperor Fan's martial Dao realm is unfathomable. Even if Lord Cat was at his peak, he could only fight him to a draw. What you just said must have fallen into his ears. It would be strange if he let you in. Lord Cat sneered. "One. Since you have this Emperor's token, come in." As the ethereal voice reverberated between the mountains, Lord Cat watched in disbelief as the fog slowly dispersed. A white stone path appeared in front of him, leading straight to the protruding peak. "Haha, if I can't even meet Emperor Fan with this token, then what can I do with this token? Big dumb cat, this young master really wants to know, how did you enter that place and meet Fan Di back then? Could it be that you barged in without permission, so you were severely injured and had to flee?" Wang Kai smiled playfully. With his hands behind his back, he leisurely stepped onto the white stone path. Lord Cat was so angry that his whole body trembled and his white fur stood on end. He stretched out his paws and pulled out the two big knives on his back. He pointed them at the top of the heaven-reaching tower as if he had been stabbed in his sore spot. He immediately shouted in exasperation, "Wang Kai, if you dare to insult Lord Cat again, Lord Cat will fight you to the death." After walking for nearly 6 hours, Wang Kai finally arrived at the foot of the lone peak. When he saw that there was actually an endless stone staircase leading to the peak, his face immediately darkened. He could not walk in the air, nor could he use his battle chi. He could only rely on his physical strength. Even though he was a 9th-grade martial king expert and walking for a few hours was not a problem, he was used to walking in the air at high speed. As a result, he felt a little annoyed. Boy, guard your state of mind. There are a total of 99,999 stone steps here. Each step contains the test of an emperor's coercion. The higher the stone steps, the stronger the coercion. If your state of mind is not clear, you will fall into the abyss, Lord Cat warned in a serious tone. Wang Kai was startled when he heard this. He didn't expect that these stone steps could make Cat Lord so serious. He couldn't help but squint his eyes as he looked at the stone steps. They were simple and unadorned, and there wasn't much mystery behind them. However, when he tentatively stepped on them, an extremely heavy pressure invaded his body. Bang! What? Wang Kai's face suddenly changed. His body was unsteady, and he was directly pushed down the stone step. He raised his hand to wipe the blood from the corner of his mouth. He squinted his eyes and said with a smile, "It is indeed mysterious and extraordinary. It is only the first stone step and it already has such power. This stone step, this mortal emperor. It's fine if I don't see it. Benshao, farewell." This mortal emperor had actually set a difficult problem. He was purely trying to fool a genius. Even a 9th-grade martial king would not be able to stand firmly on the first stone step. Thus, how would one proceed to the 99,998 stone steps after that? He would definitely vomit blood and die, right? Swoosh. After he finished speaking, Wang Kai did not hesitate to turn around and leave. However, he found that he could not move his feet at all. He tentatively took a few steps back and was shocked to find that he could only walk forward and could not turn back. "Little brat, you are really a weirdo. Grandpa Cat is really impressed by you. Just now you couldn't stand firmly on the first stone step because you were bored after 6 hours of hurrying. That's why the pressure increased. Now that you have entered this place, if you can't step onto the platform to meet Emperor Fan, you will be trapped here forever until you die of old age." Grandpa Cat stroked his long whiskers and said with a smile. Wang Kai's mouth twitched when he heard that. He had already seen the test of the state of mind in the heaven-reaching tower. As a martial artist, the state of mind was the most important, but he did not think so. If a person could do everything without any ripples, then it would be too boring. How many bragging points do I need to break these stone steps? Wang Kai frowned and asked. "Host, these stone steps are neither strong nor weak. If you want to break them, you only need 10 points. It was only 10 points. If one's state of mind was calm, then the coercion on the stone steps would not exist. If one's state of mind was unstable, then no matter how strong one was, they would be forced to retreat." When Wang Kai heard the notification, he immediately became spirited. He placed his hands behind his back and smiled indifferently. A mere emperor's coercion test is just SOSO. Watch Benshao step on the platform. Congratulations to host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Brat, can you stop bragging so much? The consequences of bragging in front of mortal emperor are very serious, Lord Cat said regretfully. If it was not for the blood contract with Wang Kai, it would not have to follow him around. It could not help but worry about the future. If it left Fan Province, it was afraid that 6 provinces and 1 island would be turned upside down by him. Break. Congratulations to host for successfully breaking the stone steps coercion test. 10 bragging points have been used. Then, under Lord Cat's astonished gaze, Wang Kai suddenly stepped on the stone steps, and his speed was so fast that it was as if he was walking on flat ground. "Thank you for your recommendation vote. I am not talented, but to be able to receive such support from all of you, I am ashamed. I can only update faster to repay your love. Chapter 114. At the peak of the lone peak, clouds and mist filled the air. Looking down, one couldn't see anything. The layers of clouds and mist were like a veil that covered the face of the lone peak. It was like a naughty child. Looking up, one could see the endless transformations of the white clouds. The sky was blue, but it was also slightly white. It was vast and empty, causing one to feel a sense of awe. The clouds floating in the sky are like a white robe, the wind changes like a dog. Since the ancient times, everything is possible in life. Wang Kai stepped on the 99,999 stone steps and arrived at the top of the pavilion. He clasped his hands behind his back and looked up at the sky. His expression was somewhat complicated as he murmured in a low voice, "Haha, what a good saying. Everything is possible in life. Wang Kai, let me ask you, the test of the stone steps is beneficial to one's martial path. Why did you use a strange technique to break it? I wonder where that strange technique came from?" A chuckle resounded. Although the sound was very soft, it reverberated throughout the mountain for a long time. Wang Kai heard this and narrowed his eyes. He looked at the pavilion in front of him. The white veil around it fluttered, revealing a figure sitting cross-legged inside. He frowned and looked carefully. He found that the figure was sitting in front of the zither, both hands resting on the zither. His fingers were long and slender, his skin was white and the outline of his body was like that of a woman's. If it weren't for the fact that his voice was that of a man, Wang Kai would have mistakenly thought that the Lord of Fan Prefecture was a woman. Senior Fandi, there is something you don't know. Junior believes that if everything in life is like an ancient well without ripples, it would be too boring. Thus, I used a secret technique to break it. As for what kind of secret technique it is, I can't explain it in a short time. I hope Senior won't blame me. Wang Kai's expression was indifferent as he stood outside the white veil. He didn't dare to enter the pavilion. The person sitting inside was none other than the Lord of Fan Prefecture. His cultivation level was unfathomable. Even Uncle Fu and the sky-suppressing Heavenly King had their cultivation levels suppressed by him. From this, one could see how powerful he was. Yes, all the cultivators in the world have their own secret. I am no exception. However, you did not pass the test with your own abilities, so I cannot give you my inheritance. However, I can temporarily make you an honorary disciple. If you pass my test in the future, we can talk about my inheritance. Emperor Fan nodded and smiled. The corners of Wang Kai's mouth twitched fiercely when he heard this, and black lines appeared on his forehead. He was really speechless by Fandi's words. After spending so much effort to climb to the top of the mountain, in the end, it was just a nominal disciple. Wasn't he underestimating Ben Shao a little too much? Senior Emperor Fan, I did not come here for the inheritance. Like I said before, I just wanted to see Senior's majesty. Now that I have seen Senior, I will take my leave. Wang Kai cupped his fists and bowed. Then, with a wave of his sleeve, he stepped down the stone steps without hesitation. The back figure in the pavilion slowly shook his head, softly sighing as he laughed. As expected, he's only a 15 or 16-year-old child. His temperament is still not mature enough. I hope that he will be able to transform outside of Fanzhou. Senior Emperor Fan, are you going to let me go just like that? Suddenly, Wang Kai quickly walked back and cupped his fists towards the figure in the pavilion. His expression was rather strange as he raised his eyebrows and asked. Since he could not obtain Emperor Fan's inheritance and become the Lord of Fan Prefecture, so what if he did not have the power of that prefecture? However, since he had come, how could he let it go in vain? Swoosh! In the pavilion, Emperor Fan's woman-like body suddenly stiffened, and it took him a long time to recover. He asked in a surprised tone, "What do you mean?" Wang Kai heard this and cleared his throat. His face was full of admiration. He smiled and said, "Senior Emperor Fan, since you are willing to accept me as your disciple, shouldn't you give me a few treasures? For example, an emperor weapon." Yes, an emperor weapon would be even better. As soon as these words came out, Emperor Fan's slender fingers that were resting on the zither clearly trembled a few times. The atmosphere immediately became silent and oppressive. "It's over. This bastard boy, Lord Cat, is really going to die here this time. Lord Cat is really unwilling." Lord Cat's expression suddenly became twisted when he heard this from the heaven-reaching tower. You've already obtained the supreme treasure, the Tower of Babel, and even have a demon emperor as its artifact spirit. Even if he's not at his peak, it's enough to save you a lot of trouble outside the Fan province. What's more, I've already given you a very good treasure." Emperor Fan chuckled. "He has already given me a treasure?" Wang Kai raised his brow when he heard this and hurriedly looked around, even searching himself from top to bottom, but he still couldn't find a single foreign object. His face immediately darkened as he muttered in a somewhat speechless manner, "Stingy brat, what Fan D. Senior, I will take my leave." Since the other party was unwilling to give him a treasure, Wang Kai naturally had no other choice. He immediately cupped his fists reluctantly and turned around to step down the stone step. "I was actually called a stingy person, haha." Emperor Fan shook his head and chuckled. His voice was no longer deep but pleasant like the sound of a bell. He slowly stood up and turned around, revealing a beautiful face that could make the heavens and earth lose their color. That was an extremely beautiful face. It was even more beautiful than Lu Yao and Li Lingxian's. In particular, that otherworldly aura of hers was several notches above theirs. Wang Kai would never have guessed that the dignified Emperor Fan was actually a woman. Moreover, it was a peerless beauty that could make people fall into the abyss with a single glance. At the foot of Lone Peak, Wang Kai's expression was quite disdainful as he kept cursing in a low voice, "Lord of Fan Province, where is Fan D? TSK, I can't believe you're so stingy. You didn't even give this young master a single hair, yet you still act like you've given me a great gift. How annoying. Bastard, your Emperor Fan token has not been taken away. Once you leave the Fan Prefecture, just that token alone is enough for you to obtain countless benefits." Back then, Cat Grandpa had barged into the southern mountain peak in order to keep that token. However, it was all for naught in the end. "I couldn't even keep the token," Cat Grandpa shouted in exasperation. However, when Lord Cat finished speaking, he suddenly reacted. Inside the heaven-connecting tower, his face was already stiff and his eyes were filled with shame and anger. "Bastard! You actually dare to trick Lord Cat?" Lord Cat shouted. When Wang Kai heard this, he immediately rolled his eyes and cursed with a dark face, "Big stupid cat, if you dare to act tough in front of Benshao again, do you believe that I won't rip off all your cat fur? Just like the golden-winged great Rock King. You must be very handsome, right? You." Lord Cat was instantly speechless. Although he had returned to the ranks of the Emperor realm, due to the bloodline contract, he could not do anything to Wang Kai. Whoosh! Wang Kai flipped his hand and took out Emperor Fan's token from the space ring. He was surprised to find that the golden token that he had found in the palace's treasury was now colorful. The words engraved on the front and back had also changed. The words on the front were no longer Fan, but Emperor. The words on the back were also no longer Emperor, but Treasure Gathering. "The votes have passed 300, I will add an extra chapter. If you pass another 400 before I go to bed at 8, I will add another chapter." Chapter 115. Gathering Treasures? Wang Kai raised an eyebrow and played with the rainbow token. His expression was full of curiosity as he asked in surprise, Could it be that Emperor Fan is also very powerful outside of Fan State? Of course, if not, would Lord Cat have suffered at the hands of Emperor Fan? Moreover, if you don't want that rainbow token, you can give it to Lord Cat. Lord Cat will also take out a powerful Emperor weapon to exchange for it. Lord Cat stroked his long whiskers and smiled with his eyes squinted. That smile looked like it was asking for a beating. If Wang Kai could see Lord Cat's sly smile at this moment, he would definitely press Lord Cat to the ground and give him a good beating. Big stupid cat, Ben Shao now has the Tower of Babel, so I don't really care about other treasures. However, since I can obtain it, Lord Ben Shao will not refuse. Tell me, where are the treasures hidden? Wang Kai asked with a playful smile. No one would believe that the Phantom Monarch of the Demon State, the Cat Demon Monarch, didn't have any hidden treasures. However, Wang Kai was very clear that it was impossible for Lord Cat to sneak into Fan State and bring treasures beyond the Ancestor Realm. However, outside of Fan State it was hard to say. Bastard! The Tower of Babel belongs to Lord Cat. What does it have to do with you? As long as you give that token to Lord Cat, I can still give you some of the other treasures. You want to get something for nothing? Humph! Do you think Lord Cat has lived for thousands of years for nothing? Lord Cat snorted with disdain. Thousands of years. Wang Kai rolled his eyes and waved his hand disdainfully. He sneered, "Forget it, big stupid cat. Ben Shao does not want to listen to your bragging anymore. Your level is really too low. Have you forgotten that the Supreme Being who lived for hundreds of millions of years was Ben Shao's disciple? Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. Received 10,000 experience, 10 bragging points. Roar, roar, roar." Suddenly, low roars and roars resounded incessantly, causing Wang Kai to frown. He swept his gaze towards the surroundings, only to discover that numerous enormous demonic beasts were entrenched in the surroundings, glaring fiercely at him like tigers eyeing their prey. Although these monsters seemed to be deliberately suppressing their auras, Wang Kai could still sense their demon realm after careful inspection. The weakest one was at the Martial King realm. Wang Kai suddenly felt dizzy. He did not expect that there would be so many demon kings in the southern mountain of Fan State. And each one was stronger than the last. If they walked out of the southern mountains, wouldn't Fan State's territories end? This young master's benevolent heart cares for the safety of the people of Fanzhou. I don't want to see a disaster happen in the future, so I will roar. Human brat, quickly get out of the southern mountains. We are demon soldiers under Lord Emperor Fan. If a disaster really happens in Fan State, we will definitely step forward to solve it. As for you, your fur is not even fully grown yet. You'd better go back and cultivate for a few more years. A demon wolf king with silver fur spoke in human language, baring its teeth and taunting him. Demon soldiers under Lord Emperor Fan? Wang Kai's face darkened when he heard this. He narrowed his eyes and stared at the demon wolf king in an unfriendly manner. He gritted his teeth and laughed in anger. Do you know how many mistakes you've made? Do you know what will happen to you if you make these mistakes? Buzz. Rumble. An extremely terrifying aura was released from Wang Kai's body, directly causing the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King to vomit blood and fly into the air. Position swap. Swish. Wang Kai's figure suddenly disappeared. When he reappeared, he was in front of the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King. He waved his hand and pressed down on the Demon Wolf King's head. Then, he suddenly pressed down. With a bang, the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King was smashed into the ground. First mistake, interrupting Ben Shao's bragging. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Second mistake, you can insult Ben Shao's personality, but you can't insult Ben Shao's age. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Third mistake, causing Ben Shao to have one less bragging. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang. Fourth mistake. In short, you've made a huge mistake. You deserve to be beaten. Bang. Bang bang! Wang Kai rode on top of the demon wolf king, one hand pressing down on its head, while the other clenched into a fist and repeatedly punched down. Every punch caused the ground to tremble. Looking at the demon wolf king, half of its body had already been forcefully stuffed into the ground. Its 2 legs twitched incessantly, and even the miserable cries it let out were extremely weak, like that of a mosquito. What a terrifying human youth! He's too scary. Is this how the human world scares demons? They can't even interrupt their bragging? Lord Emperor Fan is still gentler. He only hits once every time. Many of the monster kings were scared out of their wit. Their bodies were trembling and they immediately scattered. Human, I'm wrong. Plop. When Wang Kai stopped, the Silver Moon Demon Wolf King struggled to pull its body out. It used its last bit of strength to say a sentence. Then, its head tilted to one side and it fainted on the spot. If you knew this would happen, why did you do it in the first place? Ben Shao only wanted to brag. With Lord Emperor Fan here, even if you want to go out and brag, it's impossible. Besides, Ben Shao didn't even use his battle chi and you were already beaten to such a state. TSK, I don't know where you got your confidence from. How dare you brag in front of Ben Shao? Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. Suddenly, he felt relieved. With his hands behind his back, he leisurely walked away and left the foggy Nanling land. Swoosh! After Wang Kai's figure disappeared, a figure landed beside the demon wolf. Her beautiful face was filled with a strange expression as she shook her head and said with a smile, "Are you trying to put on a show for me? I wonder who's the stingy one between the two of us?" Reincarnation Bridge. It was located at the edge of the Nanling land and was built over the Blue Sea. The surface of the bridge was engraved with Buddhist scriptures. It was so long that one couldn't see the end of it. However, it was only 1 meter wide and was covered by golden light. On both sides of the bridge, there were 2 bronze statues of Buddhist cultivators. One of them was holding a Vajra scepter and glaring angrily. The other was holding a Bodhi pearl and smiling widely. Under the bridge, the blue sea had no ripples. It was like an ancient well without ripples. Is this the Star Sea? Wang Kai was amazed. The blue sea stretched as far as the eye could see, but there were no waves at all. Even when the wind blew, it didn't leave a single trace on the surface of the sea. This is only a corner of the Star Sea. It's between Fan Province and Fo Province, separating the 2 provinces. Those with a bad heart can't cross it. At the edge of the North Mountain is the Nether Bridge. It leads to the Nether Province. If you don't die, you can't cross it, Cat Lord said calmly. Hearing this, Wang Kai raised his brow and curled his lips in a rather speechless manner, shrugging his shoulders and snorting. This young master's benevolent heart cares for the world. Although I'm not a very good person, I'm not evil either. This bridge is too easy to cross. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through and reaching rank 1 Martial Emperor. The recommendation votes have exceeded 400. I'll add more chapters. If it exceeds 500, I'll add more chapters. I hope everyone can save the tickets for tomorrow for this book. I'll be very grateful. Chapter 116. Once you cross the Bridge of Life, the Pure Land is here. Wang Kai arrived at the end of the Bridge of Life. He stood in front of a stone tablet with his hands behind his back. He raised his eyebrows with a strange expression as he looked at the words carved on it. He could not help but sneer. If there really is a pure land in this world, Ben Shao would dare to say that he will never boast again. Congratulations to the host for successfully boasting. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ding! Suddenly, the sound of a buzzing bell resounded by his ears, accompanied by the sound of scriptures being recited. Every single word was extremely long, as if it was a song. However, when such a voice entered Wang Kai's ears, it astonishingly took on a different tone. The buzzing is too ear-piercing. Although Ben Shao does not believe in Buddhism, he can't resist chanting like this. It's really like a mosquito. Wang Kai frowned. He was speechless as he raised his hands and plugged his ears. However, the sound of the scripture being recited was like a maggot in one's bones. No matter how he tried to block it, it still rang in his soul. Wang Kai's face darkened. He looked around and saw that the surrounding trees were neatly arranged on both sides. They were neatly maintained and the ground was like golden sand, without a trace of impurities. Other than that, there was nothing else. There were no temples or mansions. Ordinary people are really stupid and ignorant. Although this is the border of the Buddha state, the Buddhist scriptures can be transmitted here. Being in the Buddha state, everywhere is the same. You are Wang Kai from the Fan state, right? Swoosh. A figure rushed over from afar. He was wearing a blue robe and looked to be around 20 years old. In the blink of an eye, he arrived above the bridge of life. He had his hands behind his back and looked down at Wang Kai with a disdainful expression. Wang Kai raised his eyebrows. He narrowed his eyes and glanced at him in surprise. He laughed softly. I did not expect Ben Shao's name to have already spread to the Buddha state. Haha, may I know why you are looking for Ben Shao? Could it be that you are here to show off? Buzz. Bang. Thud. Thud. The blue-robed young man's eyes flashed fiercely as he stood in the air. His long hair fluttered even though there was no wind, and a terrifying pressure was immediately released. Wang Kai's face turned pale, and he retreated more than 10 steps before he could stop. An Emperor Realm cultivator, and a 9th rank one at that. Wang Kai's pupils abruptly constricted. He'd never imagined that a mere 20 years of age outside of Fan Province would be a 9th-level Emperor Realm cultivator. He would have been a monstrous genius if he'd been in Fan Province. I've been waiting for you at the edge of this place for 3 days. Granny 9 Dragons was right. You'll definitely leave Fan Province, but it's hard to guess where you'll come from. Looks like I'm pretty lucky to be able to wait for you here. The blue-robed young man sneered. Granny 9 Dragons? He waited for 3 days. Wang Kai frowned when he heard this. His expression turned even colder as he sneered. Haha, Grandma 9 Dragons and Ben Shao's fiancé. How dare you? Bang. What? Suddenly, the blue-robed young man snapped and waved his arm. An invisible pressure swept over and sent Wang Kai flying. His face turned even paler as he opened his mouth and spat out a mouthful of blood. Young Lady Lu is the princess of the Martial Province's Lu clan. She's a peerless genius. Now that the Lu clan's patriarch and my Zhang clan's patriarch are discussing marriage, young Lady Lu will definitely be the wife of my Zhang clan's #1 genius, Zhang Ruoxuan. You're just an ordinary person from Fan Province. If you scram back to Fan Province, I'll spare your dog life. If you don't know what's good for you, don't blame me for being merciless. The blue-robed young man coldly snapped. Cough cough. Wang Kai's expression turned cold when he heard this. He raised his hand and wiped the blood from the corner of his mouth. He grinned and said, What's your name? You're just an ordinary person. How dare you ask for my surname? Well, since you're so weak, I'll tell you my surname. I'm a direct descendant of the Zhang clan, Zhang Yuan. Although I'm not as good as Big Brother Ruoxuan, I'm still ranked in the top 1,000 of the Sovereign Youth List. Zhang Yuan laughed proudly. Sovereign Youth List. Wang Kai was stunned when he heard this. He had heard about this list from Li Lingxian when he was in Fan Province. He didn't expect to encounter one of these lists when he had just arrived in Buddha Province. Haha, you're only ranked in the top 1,000. What's there to brag about? If Ben Shao wants to, he can surpass you at any time. It's only a matter of time before he becomes #1. Wang Kai snorted disdainfully. Congratulations to the host for bragging successfully. You've received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Zhang Yuan's face turned cold when he heard this. He suddenly swooped down from the sky and gathered his battle chi into his fist. He scolded, "You're just an ordinary person. How dare you lay your hands on the princess of the Lu clan? How dare you talk about becoming #1 on the sovereign youth list? How shameless! You deserve to die. Since you don't know what's good for you, you'll die here. F*CKU. Do you think Ben Shao is afraid of you? Even if I have to risk my life today, I will skin you alive." Wang Kai's expression was extremely furious. He immediately circulated all of his battle chi, and with a tap of his feet, he charged into the sky to meet the attack. Although Wang Kai knew that he was no match for Zhang Yuan, even with his level 1 martial royal realm and his level 6 bloodline power, there was no way he could escape from Zhang Yuan's attack. He could only fight to the death. Whoosh! However, just as Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan were about to collide in midair, a figure suddenly appeared between the two of them. He opened his arms and swung them gently. With 2 bangs, Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan were both sent flying back. "Who are you? Uncle Lu?" Zhang Yuan was the first to stop retreating. He frowned and looked at the newcomer with regret. He knew in his heart that it was impossible to kill Wang Kai. He only regretted that he didn't kill Wang Kai directly at that time. It was Lu Qingshan, the current master of the Imperial Advisor's mansion. Wang Kai stopped with a pale face. He was so angry that he wanted to kill Zhang Yuan on the spot. He looked up at the figure in the air. It was Lu Qingshan, whom he had met in the Imperial Advisor's mansion in King City. "Zhang Yuan, did Ruoxuan ask you to come here?" Lu Qingshan was handsome. Although he was middle-aged, he had an elegant and friendly temperament. Even when he was frowning, no one could tell what he was thinking. Zhang Yuan's eyes flickered as he hurriedly cupped his fists and replied respectfully, "Big brother didn't ask me to come here, but I found a jade Buddha statue in a ruin by chance, and I came to the Buddha prefecture with the intention of going to the treasure-gathering pavilion to sell the jade Buddha statue to a fated person." Lu Qingshan nodded. He put his hands behind his back and said calmly, "Then go. The Zhang family has no right to interfere in the matter between Wang Kai and Yao." "Yes, Uncle Lu," Zhang Yuan said, gritting his teeth. He then glanced coldly at Wang Kai. "Wang Kai, you're just an ordinary person in the fan state. You can't even survive outside the fan state, let alone be ranked on the Supreme Youth list. If you know what's good for you, you'd better go back to the fan state. Otherwise, if we meet again, I'll kill you." As Zhang Yuan stepped into the air and left, he left behind a voice transmission in Wang Kai's mind. Chapter 117. The Supreme Youth Ranking. Zhang Yuan, Zhang Ruoxuan. Wang Kai's face was filled with a cold smile. He floated down from the sky and patted his clothes. He said calmly, "Uncle Lu, it seems that I'm going to have some fun outside of Fan Province. The Young Sovereigns list is a list of 1,000 young people who are under 25 years old. The top 1,000 are geniuses who have not yet activated their bloodline power, but have the potential to do so. The top 500 are geniuses who have already activated their bloodline power, and their bloodline power is at level 6. The top 100 are geniuses whose bloodline power has reached level 7. The top 10 are geniuses with level 8 bloodline power, and they can be titled as young sovereigns. Zhang Ruoxuan is ranked 7th. Lu Qingshan smiled calmly. The top 1,000 are geniuses who have yet to activate their bloodline power. The top 500 are geniuses who have reached the 6th level of their bloodline power. The top 100 are geniuses who have reached the 7th level of their bloodline power. The top 10 are geniuses who have reached the 8th level of their bloodline power. Wang Kai squinted his eyes. He couldn't help but think of Zhang Yuan. He was only in the top 1,000, and his bloodline power had yet to be activated. However, he was able to reach the 9th level of the martial emperor realm at the age of 20. It wasn't an exaggeration to call him a genius. So according to the Supreme Youth ranking, Ben Shao is only in the top 500? Haha, this is quite interesting, Wang Kai said with a playful smile. Lu Qingshan shook his head slightly. He took out a black and white pendant with 2 thumb-sized black and white beads hanging from it. He threw it to Wang Kai and said calmly, "The Supreme Youth ranking is also based on one's combat strength. Even though your bloodline power is at the 6th level, your cultivation is only at the 1st level of the martial emperor realm. On the Supreme Youth ranking, the weakest of the top 1,000 is at the 7th level of the martial emperor realm." Patter. Wang Kai reached out and took the pendant, turning it over and playing with it. Hearing this, he smiled casually and said, "That's not necessarily true. Maybe this young master's bloodline power will reach the 7th level one day? Or perhaps Benshao's cultivation would reach the peak 9th grade martial dominator realm in the next moment. Nothing is absolute in this world. May I know what this pearl is?" Hearing this, Lu Qingshan looked indifferent. He didn't take Wang Kai's words to heart. Once the bloodline power was activated, it was fixed. Even if there were ways to improve the bloodline power, it was too difficult to find. "This bead is the yin-yang escape bead. Yao Er asked me to give it to you. Although I hope you can surpass those supreme youths, reality is hard to go against. I hope you know when to back off." Lu Qingshan sighed and leaped into the air. In the blink of an eye, he disappeared into the horizon. Seeing this, Wang Kai shrugged his shoulders indifferently. If he didn't even believe in himself, how could he become a supreme martial artist? As for the cold gazes of others, he could just ignore them. As long as one day, he could rise above them in a dazzling manner. Big stupid cat, where is the trove of treasures pavilion? Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly and put the yin-yang escape bead into his space ring. The Tower of Babel hung above Wang Kai's left ear. It shook gently a few times and Cat Lord's voice came out. "Hee, looks like you're going to find Zhang Yuan? Although you're a little reckless and ignorant, Cat Lord likes it. 3,000 miles ahead, you'll see a city called Mercy Ancient City. In it, there's the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. I just don't know if Zhang Yuan went there. If he's really there, even if you can't defeat him, you can use Emperor Fan's token to escape safely." Cat Lord stroked his long whiskers and laughed softly. Wang Kai was startled. He suddenly remembered Emperor Fan's colorful token. Weren't the words "Trove of Treasures" engraved on it? Could it be that the Trove of Treasures Pavilion was opened by Emperor Fan? Wang Kai's expression suddenly became quite playful. If that was really the case, it seemed that he had indeed received a great treasure as a gift. Cat Lord doesn't know if it's Emperor Fan who opened it, but Trove of Treasures Pavilion has countless branches in various provinces. Just in the Buddha province alone, there are no less than 100 branches, placed in various towns. With Emperor Fan's martial realm, even if he's not the owner of Trove of Treasures Pavilion, he's still one of the top figures. Cat Lord stroked his long whiskers and said, "Whether it's Emperor Fan or not, Ben Shao doesn't want to use Emperor Fan's token to deal with Wang Kai this time. If there's a grudge, I'll have to take it personally. If I can't pull out that bastard's tendons and skin him alive, I, Wang Kai, will pronounce my name backwards from now on." Swoosh. Wang Kai's expression was cold as he grinned. With a tap of his feet, he suddenly stepped into the air and went straight to Mercy Ancient City, which was 3,000 miles away. Mercy Ancient City was located at the edge of the Buddha province. The city was filled with lay Buddhist cultivators and disciples. The sound of chanting scriptures could be heard everywhere. Even those who came from other provinces had to put their palms together and greet each other. This was one of the rules of the Buddha province. "Amitba, where did you come from? What brings you to Mercy Ancient City?" Wang Kai had just entered the city gate when he was stopped by a benevolent Buddhist cultivator. He was wearing a kasaya and had no hair on his head, but there were 6 scars on his head. It could be seen that his position in Buddhism was not as high as that of monk Jichen, but he was still a powerful Buddhist cultivator. Amitabha, why do you ask? There are countless people coming and going in this city. Why do you have to stop me? Wang Kai put his palms together and bowed slightly to return the greeting with a smile. The monk gently shook his head, put his palms together, and bowed again. He smiled gently and said, I can see that there's a murderous aura between your eyebrows. You must have come to Mercy Ancient City to seek revenge. Although my Buddhism is shallow, I don't want to see a tragedy happen. I hope you can leave this city. How could he tell that? Wang Kai suddenly had a strange feeling. He had to admit that once one's cultivation reached a high level, he would be able to read people very accurately. Master, I have indeed come to seek revenge, but I don't want to leave. As you said, even if I leave Mercy Ancient City, I can still seek revenge outside the city. If my revenge is not resolved, I will not be at ease. If you insist on stopping me, don't blame me for not showing mercy. Wang Kai said with a faint smile. Whoosh. The moment this was said, the monk immediately frowned. He looked deeply at Wang Kai, but he was surprised to find that he was unable to detect Wang Kai's martial cultivation. There were only 2 possibilities for this matter. First, he had a treasure with him. Second, his martial arts realm was higher than his own. However, no matter which one it was, if he continued to stop him, it would definitely lead to an unpleasant battle. In this way, he would go against his original intention. Amitabha, if that's the case, then this poor monk can only follow by your side. The monk put his palms together and bowed. Immediately, under Wang Kai's astonished gaze, he stood aside with a smile. When Wang Kai took a step, the monk also took a step. If he stood still, the monk would be the same. Old bald donkey, did Benshao give you some face? Wang Kai's face suddenly darkened and he scolded impatiently. Chapter 118. Hearing this, the monk was still smiling and did not show any dissatisfaction. He put his palms together and bowed. He smiled gently and said, Amitabha, if you are willing to leave Mercy Ancient City, I will not follow you. He was really annoying. He was like a dogskin plaster. Wang Kai's face darkened as he stared at him. Suddenly, he grinned and said, Old bald donkey, if you dare to pester Benshao like this again, Benshao does not mind killing you right now. Haha, Benshao is not boasting, but in Mercy Ancient City, there are very few people who can stand shoulder to shoulder with Benshao. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to the 2nd grade martial royal realm. Amitabha, benefactor, I am the dean of the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. My Dharma name is Benwu. If you insist on doing something bad, I can only suppress you. Monk Benwu put his palms together and chanted. Great Mercy Buddhist Temple? He was actually a librarian? When Wang Kai heard this, the corner of his mouth twitched fiercely. His forehead was full of black lines as he stared at him. He said rather speechlessly, Old bald donkey, why are you here to stop this young master instead of properly managing the affairs of the canteen? Do you want Benshao to donate some incense to you? Also, Benshao will definitely pay a visit to the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple in the future. Amitabha, although I am a dean, the Buddhist doctrine is boundless. I have Buddha in my heart. No matter where I am responsible for Buddha. Monk Benwu smiled gently, but he was a little surprised. He did not expect that even the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple could not make this young man give in. It was obvious that his background was not ordinary. Patter, patter. Wang Kai suddenly felt extremely impatient. He immediately took out stacks of banknote. The total amount was 10 million taels of silver. If he hadn't met this kind of stubborn monk, let alone 10 million taels of silver, he wouldn't have been willing to give out even a single coin. Ben Shao is merciful. He takes it as his duty to save the world and help the weak. He has never killed innocent people. As the saying goes, if you have Buddha in your heart, you will be merciless. I hope you can step aside. These banknotes are Ben Shao's donations of incense. Wang Kai frowned and bragged reluctantly. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Wang Kai was slightly comforted when he heard the notification. However, his hatred towards the so-called Great Mercy Buddhist Temple grew even more. He swore in his heart that if he ascended the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple in the future, he would definitely turn it upside down. Benefactor should have come from Fan Province? Ben Wu looked at the banknotes in shock and asked in a strange tone. Wang Kai was startled when he heard this. Seeing that there wasn't the slightest bit of joy on his face, he instantly rolled his eyes speechlessly and coldly snorted. Ben Shao indeed came from Fan Province. Don't tell me you think it's too little? Old bald donkey, Ben Shao did not come here today to stir up trouble. If you don't know what's good for you, Ben Shao really won't tolerate it. Haha, benefactor has misunderstood. Banknotes may be used in Fan Province, but outside of Fan Province, what is used is spirit stones. Ben Wu smiled warmly and handed the banknotes back to him with amusement. Outside of Fan Province, banknotes were actually useless. Then what were spirit stones? Wang Kai suddenly had the urge to strangle monk Ben Wu to death. He had worked so hard to obtain these silver notes, but in the end, outside of Fan Province, they were not worth a single coin. Old bald donkey, Ben Shao will tell you the truth. Master Ji Chen of the Blissful Buddhist Temple had once been to Fan Province. At that time, he still had to be respectful towards Ben Shao. Even his disciple, Zening, was Ben Shao's little brother. If you continue to pester endlessly, don't blame Ben Shao for letting Ji Chen destroy your Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. Wang Kai coldly laughed. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ben Wu's expression suddenly changed when he heard this. He widened his eyes and stared at Wang Kai. After a long while, he respectfully bowed and said, Amitabha, so benefactor is the elder brother of Master Zening. This poor monk has offended you previously. I hope benefactor will not take offense. Zening. Master Zening. F***K. That fatty Lu's position in Fu Province was very high. Cough cough, it's good that you know. I didn't come to the benevolent ancient city to seek revenge, but the person I'm looking for is definitely not a good person. He has a jade Buddha on him. That jade Buddha is an heirloom of my family, but it was stolen by him. I've chased him to get the jade Buddha back so that I can send it to the Blissful Buddhist Temple and give it to my younger brother, Zening, so that he can properly comprehend the truth of Buddhism, Wang Kai said with a mocking smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Ben Wu respectfully clasped his hands together and smiled warmly. Amitabha, I did not expect benefactor to be so kind as to be willing to give your family's heirloom, the jade Buddha, to Buddhism. May I know where the person who stole the jade Buddha is? Ben Wu is willing to help benefactor. Since he could not get rid of him, he might as well follow him. It was not bad to use him to deal with Zhang Yuan. He is in the treasure trove building. He stole my family's jade Buddha and threatened to sell it. He also said that he would sell the jade Buddha in Fu Province. There will definitely be countless old bald donkeys willing to buy it at a high price. Wang Kai squinted his eyes and smiled. Ben Wu frowned when he heard this. His expression suddenly became a little cold. He put his palms together and said, "Amitabha, in that case, please follow this poor monk. The treasure trove pavilion is located in the center of the ancient city." Zhang Yuan, if Ben Shao does not play with you until you have nowhere to go, wouldn't you have come to Fu province in vain? Wang Kai sneered in his heart when he saw this, but on the surface, he looked indignant. He followed closely behind Ben Wu. Now that he had broken through to the second-grade martial king realm, coupled with the power of a rank 6 bloodline and the opening of the 8 inner hidden gates, he could fight against a rank 9 martial king. If Zhang Yuan had opened the power of his bloodline, Wang Kai naturally did not think that he could defeat him. The key was that Zhang Yuan had not opened the power of his bloodline. If they were at the same level, Wang Kai had absolute confidence that he could beat him. In the central area of benevolent ancient city, there were all kinds of people coming and going. It was not like the outer city, where most of them were secular disciples. Here, there were more cultivators from different provinces who came to sell treasures related to Buddhism. The treasure trove building was located in the central area. There were no buildings around it, which made it stand out. It was a 5-story pavilion with glittering gold decorations. It looked rather grand. In Wang Kai's eyes there were only 4 words: rich, pretentious. Ben Wu, why don't you go to buy ingredients from the vegetarian hall today? Instead, you have time to stroll around the treasure trove building? In front of the treasure trove building, 2 middle-aged men in golden robes took out 2 long sabers and blocked Ben Wu and Wang Kai outside. Chapter 119. Humph. Don't tell me you're going to come here again and say something about how Buddhist treasures shouldn't be sold? If that's the case, you'd better take a detour. The golden-robed man on the other side snorted coldly. 2 long sabers were crossed in front of the door, blocking Ben Wu and Wang Kai outside. The 2 middle-aged men looked quite displeased. It could be seen that they were not very friendly to Ben Wu and were even extremely disgusted with him. Zhang Yuan, this time Ben Shao wants to see how you deal with it." Seeing this, Wang Kai couldn't help but sneer in his heart. No wonder monk Ben Wu, who never got angry no matter how much he insulted him, changed his expression when he mentioned that Zhang Yuan was selling the Jade Buddha. It turned out that this was the reason. "Amitabha, you're wrong. Buddhist treasures should be used for good deeds. It's indeed a disgrace to Buddhist treasures to be sold. This poor monk, okay. There's no need to waste your breath here. Leave quickly. Otherwise, don't blame us for being ruthless." The 2 middle-aged men interrupted with a cold snort. Ben Wu frowned slightly when he heard this. He put his palms together and bowed. He said lightly, "Since you 2 are so unreasonable, this poor monk will offend you." Clang! As soon as these words came out, the 2 middle-aged men's expressions immediately turned cold. They immediately waved their long sabers in front of them and stared at Ben Wu with cold vigilance. Their vigorous battle chi covered their sabers. Emperor realm powerhouses. And they were only gatekeepers of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. Wang Kai sensed the battle chi level of the 2 men and suddenly felt a little speechless. He thought about how much he had boasted to reach the Emperor realm. In the end, he was not even as good as the 2 gatekeepers of the Trove of Treasures Pavilion. "You 2 quickly get out of the way. I have something to do by inviting Ben Wu here." Just when the 2 sides were about to fight, Wang Kai stepped forward with his back to Ben Wu. He took out Emperor Fan's colorful token and waved it slightly at the 2 middle-aged guards. Whoosh! Plop! "I didn't know that your highness was here. Please forgive me." In an instant, under Wang Kai's astonished gaze, the 2 middle-aged men hurriedly put away their long swords and knelt on one knee on the ground. They lowered their heads deeply and their expressions and actions were extremely respectful. The Crown Prince? Ben Shao had actually become an emperor. Wang Kai instantly felt speechless. He couldn't believe that he had actually become the imperial son of the treasure trove pavilion just by relying on a 7-colored command medallion. Ba, I didn't expect you to be the prince of the treasure trove pavilion. I'm ashamed. Monk Benwu clasped his hands together and bowed with a self-mocking expression. It would be too easy for Treasure Gathering Pavilion to kill someone in Mercy Ancient City. Even the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple would absolutely not go against the Treasure Gathering Pavilion. Wang Kai hurriedly moved aside when he saw this. Many martial cultivators in the surroundings were already looking over, and many of them had hostile looks in their eyes. Although the Emperor's status of Treasure Trove Pavilion's crown prince was very good, who knew how much weight he had? If he was not important enough, wouldn't he become the target of public criticism? Do you want to die? This Emperor's son did not come here to announce my identity. Wang Kai frowned and scolded with a displeased voice transmission. Sure enough, the 2 middle-aged guards immediately trembled. They quickly stood up, moved aside, and stood on both sides without saying a word. Your Highness, please come in. We'll kill all the martial cultivators around here in a moment. Hearing the 2 guards' voice transmission, Wang Kai's heart suddenly jumped violently. He couldn't help but turn his head to look at the martial cultivators who were looking at him. There were many martial cultivators whose realms he couldn't detect. They were at least at the upper emperor stage. How dare they threaten to kill all the martial cultivators here? How bold was the treasure trove pavilion? Ahem, Ben Shao is merciful and doesn't want to kill more people. Forget it. Later, you can think of a way to make them give up on the idea that I'm the prince. Wang Kai put his hands behind his back and sent a voice transmission with a calm expression. Then, he walked leisurely into the treasure trove pavilion. Monk Benwu bowed slightly to the 2 middle-aged guards and followed closely behind them. Only the 2 guards were left in a daze. They looked at each other and felt their minds go blank. What kind of method can make so many martial cultivators give up on the idea? If we can't figure it out, should we? The 2 guards were dumbfounded and wanted to slap themselves a few times. The first floor of the Treasure Trove Pavilion was a large open area. There were thousands of martial cultivators who were placing a white cloth on the ground. On the cloth were various Buddhist items. Similarly, there were many secular disciples and Buddhist cultivators who were in the process of tonsure who were searching back and forth. Their gazes moved about the various Buddhist items, and if they encountered something they liked or a profound treasure, they would stop and pick it up to take a look. Ba, so many Buddhist treasures are actually being sold here as if they were stalls. Good, good. Benwu frowned and sighed. His expression was indescribably angry, but also contained a deep sense of helplessness. Wang Kai curled his lips in disdain when he heard this. Just as he said before, the treasures of Buddhism naturally had to be sold in the Buddha province in order to obtain better and higher profits. If he didn't take such a huge opportunity to make a huge profit, it would really be a good thing. Benefactor, is the person who stole the family jade Buddha here? Monk Benwu asked in a low voice. If possible, he really didn't want to stay here any longer. Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly as he scanned the surroundings of the first floor. However, he was unable to find Zhang Yuan's figure. As he thought of this, he could not help but raise his head to look towards the second floor. With a faint smile, he said, Grandmaster Benwu, I know how you are feeling right now. However, my family's jade Buddha is a supreme treasure. Ba, good, good. Monk Benwu put his palms together and shook his head. Then, Wang Kai and Monk Benwu went up to the second floor. Compared to the first floor, there were fewer martial cultivators on this floor. Instead, there were more senior monks and lay disciples. It could be seen that in Buddhism, the better the treasure, the more popular it was. However, they still couldn't find Zhang Yuan's figure. Could it be that the jade Buddha is really a rare treasure? Wang Kai frowned and thought to himself. Since the treasure trove pavilion had set up floors of pavilions, it was naturally important to distinguish the level of the treasures. However, Zhang Yuan's figure was nowhere to be found on the first and second floors. Benefactor, the Buddhist treasures sold on the third level are all quasi-emperor level treasures. May I know what level of Buddhist treasure your family's jade Buddha is? Monk Benwu's expression also changed as he looked at Wang Kai in surprise. Chapter 120. Quasi-Emperor level? Wang Kai raised his eyebrows when he heard that. He had heard of Emperor-level weapons before, and he had a heaven-reaching pagoda. However, it was the first time he had heard of a quasi-Emperor-level weapon. Moreover, what was the so-called Spirit Stone? Looks like Benshao has to turn on his crazy bragging mode. Otherwise, wouldn't he be worse than a gatekeeper? Wang Kai secretly felt helpless in his heart. He was unfamiliar with the land outside the Fan province. There were big brothers everywhere, and each one of them was more overbearing than the last. Just like Zhang Yuan, and this monk Benwu in front of him. If he was in the Fan province, he would have already beaten him up until his eyes were bruised. Haha, Benshao's family heirloom is naturally extraordinary. I'm not afraid to tell you that even a true emperor-level treasure is not as good as 1/10,000th of it, let alone a quasi-emperor-level treasure. Wang Kai said with an indifferent smile. His voice was not soft and it spread far and wide, allowing all the cultivators on the second floor to hear it. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Monk Benwu frowned when he heard that. He looked a little anxious as he pulled Wang Kai and quickly went up to the third floor. However, the Buddhist cultivators and lay disciples who were originally on the second floor, and even the cultivators who sold Buddhist items, all followed them up together. Benefactor, why did you do this? Now that the Buddhist treasure has been revealed, I'm afraid it will cause an unexpected disaster. Monk Benwu frowned and said. He looked at the people who followed him and suddenly became more anxious. Wang Kai looked at him with disdain when he saw that. He thought to himself, you're so anxious because you're afraid that the Buddhist treasure will fall into the hands of others, right? He chuckled indifferently and did not expose him directly. His eyes quickly scanned the third floor, but he did not find Zhang Yuan's figure. Could he be on the fourth floor? If the third floor had quasi-emperor level treasures, then what about the fourth floor? Could it be a real emperor weapon? Haha, Benshao's family heirloom is not comparable to a mere quasi-emperor realm expert. It doesn't matter if we don't keep it here. It's just a pile of scrap metal. It's not as valuable as Benshao's clothes. It's really an eyesore. Wang Kai smiled proudly, clasped his hands behind his back, and continued to climb to the fourth floor. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You have received 10,000 experience points and 10 bragging points. Congratulations to the host for successfully breaking through to rank 3 martial monarch. Hearing this, Wang Kai was in high spirits. Now that he had reached the third stage of martial emperor, he didn't need to use the 8 inner hidden gates to defeat Zhang Yuan, who was ranked on the youth sovereign list. When they reached the fourth level, the number of cultivators following behind them had already reached nearly 1,000. The fourth level, which originally only had a few dozen people, instantly became extraordinarily lively. As for the cultivators following behind Wang Kai, their eyes almost popped out. They kept looking at Wang Kai's clothes. Even Monk Benwu was no exception. Zhang Yuan. Wang Kai. Immediately, Wang Kai and Zhang Yuan, who had set up a stall in the distance, shouted in unison. Haha, Zhang Yuan, you little bastard. Benshao didn't come in vain after all. Wang Kai smiled coldly and walked over leisurely. Zhang Yuan's eyes were filled with killing intent. However, when he saw the cultivators following behind Wang Kai, he was so frightened that his pupils shrank. He couldn't believe that an ordinary person like him could win over so many strong cultivators in just a few hours. Even though he was a genius on the youth sovereign ranking and a 9th-level Emperor realm cultivator, he was still no match for so many strong cultivators. Evil thief, you actually dared to steal Benshio's family heirloom while he was relieving himself. Now that Benshio has caught you red-handed, thief, do you know your crime? Wang Kai berated sternly. He stood in front of Zhang Yuan's stall and glanced at the jade Buddha on display. He sneered in his heart. There was nothing else on Zhang Yuan's stall except for an emerald jade Buddha about a foot long. Its left hand twirled the Bodhi bead, while its right hand was held horizontally in front of its chest. The jade body was carved with uncanny craftsmanship and looked quite spirited. Especially the monastic robe on the jade Buddha's chest. It was blood-red and as dazzling as a blood-red robe. Wang Kai, you're just a commoner from Fan Province. Don't spout nonsense here. The only reason I didn't kill you earlier was because of Uncle Lu. I didn't expect you to come to me on your own accord. The ignorant are truly fearless, Zhang Yuan retorted sternly. Although he said that, his gaze was constantly on the expressions of the strong cultivators. He was secretly a little afraid. However, when he saw that the cultivators were ignoring him, he immediately heaved a sigh of relief. However, a sudden change occurred. No matter where he came from, quickly take out the stolen treasure and let us see it. That's right. This young man just said that his family heirloom is a peerless item. If you take it out now and let us see it, we won't make things difficult for you. Amitba, benefactor, please take out the stolen treasure for us to see. Then, many cultivators began to speak. Zhang Yuan was stunned when he heard this and for a moment, he couldn't react. Everyone, there's no need for him to take it out. Benshio's family heirloom is right here. Wang Kai sneered in his heart. Suddenly, he flipped his hand and summoned the jade Buddha from the stall into his hand. Whoosh! Zhang Yuan's eyes turned cold when he saw this. He immediately wanted to snatch it but was stopped by several strong cultivators. Presumptuous! This item was originally the heirloom of the young man's family. Now that it has returned to its rightful owner, how can you continue to act like a robber? Amitba, if you don't watch your words and actions, I can only expel you from Mercy Ancient City. Immediately, many cultivators began to berate him. In the end, Monk Benwu spoke. Immediately, the Buddhist cultivators and secular disciples echoed his words. Bastard! Bastard! Simply bastard! I was the one who brought this jade Buddha out from the ruins with a narrow escape. But now, you're saying that I snatched it from you? He's just a commoner from Fan Province. How can he have such a precious treasure for his family heirloom? Are all of you idiots? Zhang Yuan berated sternly. He was so angry that his face turned ashen. His entire body trembled as he stared coldly at Wang Kai. He looked like he wanted nothing more than to swallow him whole. However, many cultivators ignored him. They only looked at Zhang Yuan with disdain before they turned to look at Wang Kai. This scene also caused Zhang Yuan to come to his senses. Indeed, no one present was a fool. They were doing this because they wanted to take the jade Buddha away in a cheaper way. It was precisely because Wang Kai was a commoner from Fan Province that everyone thought that a mere brat from Fan Province would not be able to pay a high price. However, it was impossible for Zhang Yuan to do so. Anyone with a discerning eye could see that Zhang Yuan's aura was vigorous. He was already at the peak of the Emperor's stage at such a young age. With such talent, he was definitely not a good person. On the other hand, Wang Kai looked to be only 15 or 16 years old. Moreover, he came from the barren land of Fan Province. Naturally, he was easier to deceive than Zhang Yuan. Even if he could not be deceived, he could still use force to threaten him. After all, Wang Kai was only a commoner from Fan Province. How could he have a backer in Buddha Province? Since this young man dared to say that the jade Buddha was his treasure, He must have some tricks up his sleeves. Even if he was making things up, the ones to suffer in the end would not be the crowd. Since that was the case, it was better to go with the flow. The votes passed 500,600, then another 700. 3 chapters have been added. Thank you for your support. Chapter 121. Young friend, can you sell that jade Buddha to me? I'm willing to pay 100 6th-class spiritual stones. A layman disciple stepped forward and said, I'm willing to pay 200 6th-class spiritual stones. 300, 600. I'm willing to pay 1,000. As the crowd began to bid, their faces and necks turned red. Before Wang Kai could say anything, the number of spiritual stones had already reached 5,000. Bastard! On the 4th floor, only Emperor-level treasures can be sold. A quasi-Emperor-level treasure can be sold for 16,000 6th-class spirit stones. How could you offer such a low price? Even if he is just an ordinary man, stupid and ignorant, the jade Buddha treasure belongs to me. Zhang Yuan's face turned red as he scolded in a stern voice. He was really angry when he heard this. As soon as he said that, many experts frowned. Everyone knew that only royal-grade treasures could be sold on the 4th floor of the treasure trove tower. If he didn't say it out loud, he just wanted to buy it at a low price. Now that Zhang Yuan had exposed him, the crowd naturally didn't treat him well. Boy, it's not easy for you to cultivate to the 9th grade martial royal realm at such a young age. Although you have some talent, you should pay attention to your words and actions. Don't end up in a tragic death. Amitabha, the treasure trove tower has already set the rules. All transactions are voluntary. There's only buying and selling, and there's no useless talk. If you don't know the rules, I'll have to ask you to leave the Mercy Ancient City. Amitabha, I'm a layman disciple of the Great Mercy Buddhist Temple. You're maliciously raising the number of spiritual stones. If the Buddhist treasure falls into the hands of others, wouldn't it be a sin? Many cultivators reprimanded him, one after another. Suddenly, Zhang Yuan's face turned livid with anger. How dare you? I'm Zhang Yuan, a direct descendant of the Zhang family in Wuzhou. If you have the ability to take my head, you can try it. Zhang Yuan scolded sternly. As a descendant of a great family and a figure on the Supreme Youth List, he was naturally arrogant. How could he bear such humiliation? It's Zhang Yuan from the Zhang family, the 501st genius on the Sovereign Youth List. Everyone's expression changed when they heard this. Even the local monks and lay disciples of the Buddha state changed their expressions at this moment. Although the Zhang family was far away in the martial state, their family's power and connections were comparable to the blissful Buddhist temple in the Pure Land of Bliss. In the Buddha state, one of the most powerful Buddhist temples was the Blissful Buddhist Temple. So, Benefactor is a descendant of the Zhang family. We were blind just now. I hope Benefactor won't take offense. Many cultivators started to put in a good word for him. No one present dared to continue being rude to Zhang Yuan. Seeing this, Wang Kai narrowed his eyes slightly. He didn't expect the Zhang family to be so powerful. Even though they were far away in the Wuzhou, they were still able to intimidate the local Buddhist cultivators in the Buddhazhou. The Lu family and the Zhang family were both aristocratic families in the Wuzhou. Lu Yao's background was actually so awesome. Wang Kai, return the Jade Buddha. I'll give you a quick death later. Zhang Yuan said with a cold smile on his face. Benefactor Zhang Yuan is right. Young Benefactor, you deceived us with malicious words just now and almost caused us to slander a good person. If you don't hand over the Jade Buddha, don't blame us for being merciless. How could the direct descendant of the Zhang family in the Wuzhou rob an ordinary person of his treasure? Young man, I advise you to hand it over as soon as possible. Don't get into trouble without knowing it. In an instant, many cultivators turned their attention to Wang Kai. Perhaps the people present were not afraid of Zhang Yuan, but they were afraid of the Zhang family behind him. Wang Kai was not surprised by this scene. People who fawned over those in power were like weeds on the wall. People like this were already used to it. The Zhang family? Haha, what is the Zhang family? Zhang Yuan, it's not that Ben Shao is looking down on you, but if you use the aristocratic family behind you to solve every problem, won't you be classified as a useless coward? If Ben Shao was like you, who knows how many aristocratic families in the world would be destroyed? Of course, your Zhang family is no exception, Wang Kai said with a cold smile. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Once these words were spoken, it immediately attracted the contempt of the crowd. He was just an ordinary person in the Fanzhou, but he actually bragged about how his aristocratic family was so powerful that they could even destroy the Zhang family. Who would believe such words? Wang Kai. Although there is a rule in the Endless Treasures Pavilion that forbids violence, you better think carefully. The moment you leave the Endless Treasures Pavilion, it will be the time of your death. If you obediently hand over the Jade Buddha, kneel on the ground and kowtow to me a few times, I might give you a quick death after leaving the Endless Treasures Pavilion. Otherwise, do you know why living is worse than death? Zhang Yuan sneered. Clap, clap, clap. Hearing this, Wang Kai immediately clapped his hands and sneered with disdain. Zhang Yuan, oh Zhang Yuan, you really do have some talent for bragging. However, it's still not enough. Whether you hand it over or not, you'll still die. Do you really think the Zhang family is invincible? Some cowardly people who try to curry favor with the powerful are afraid of your Zhang family, but I'm sorry, Ben Shao doesn't put your Zhang family in his eyes. If one day Ben Shao steps into Wuzhou, your Zhang family will have to look up to him and kowtow to Ben Shao, saying long live Grandpa Kai. Congratulations to the host for successfully bragging. You've received 10,000 experience and 10 bragging points. Hearing this, the crowd's mouth twitched. They had never seen such a young man who didn't even put the Zhang family in his eyes. Not only did he insult them, he even wanted the Zhang family to kowtow to him. Should it be said that the ignorant were fearless? Or should it be said that the ordinary people of Fanzhou were extremely stupid? But no matter which one it was, it couldn't change the fate of this young man. Everyone thought that Wang Kai was dead for sure. Why are all of you gathered here? Could it be that there's a treasure that can't be evaluated? Suddenly, a voice rang out, causing everyone to turn around. They saw a middle-aged man walking down from the 5th floor. He was dressed in luxurious clothes, but his appearance was unflattering. He had triangular eyes, pimples, and a body as thin as a stick, but he was still very tall. Steward Zhao. Everyone bowed and greeted him. In this trove of treasures pavilion, the only person in charge was this man. Steward Zhao nodded slightly and walked along the path that everyone had opened. His eyes were fixed on the Jade Buddha statue in Wang Kai's hand. When he saw the blood-red kasaya on the chest of the Jade Buddha statue, his pupils suddenly shrank. Thud, thud, thud. Under everyone's astonished gaze, Steward Zhao's face turned pale as he took a few steps back. He raised a trembling hand and pointed at the Jade Buddha statue. He swallowed dryly and stammered, Blood cloak Bodhi. What? Blood cloak Bodhi? Hearing this, everyone's expression changed greatly. My friends, I'm very grateful for your love. Not only have my recommendation votes passed 800, but it has also passed 900. Today, I'll add 2 more chapters to the minimum 3 chapters. If it passes 1000, I'll add another chapter. You're tuning in to the Phoenix Knights YouTube channel. Don't forget to subscribe and join us on this journey to catch the most captivating stories.